All right, sorry. Just checking. Wasn't working properly. Hello, welcome everybody. Sandy Claus, bipedal species, how y'all doing? I don't know if everyone else is seeing this. Outline Knights here. All right, cool. We're good. Welcome everybody. Let's get to the office, shall we? Welcome everybody. Welcome. I'm trying something new-ish, so this is the restream. I'm using restream again because OBS doesn't have the multi-stream functionality, so hopefully everything works well. Everything's good. So I apologize ahead of time if this is a little janky at times, just because new technology, so pardon our dust. But welcome to Office Hours. This is a live stream I do every week where I come hang out with the community, with the fans, and we just, you know, talk some topics and let you all ask questions and everything like that, so. How y'all doing tonight? Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you, Outlaw. Thank you, Bipedal Species, Santa Claus, Heath, SC. BS&T, how you doing? Put a Twitter out. Bring out your dead. Yeah, there's not too many people. So we got a bunch of new potential professions to announce, right? Like, I wasn't just imagining that. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Hey Vader, Revos, Dunkin' Donuts, Forged Horizons. Dunkin' Donuts is prelude to the stream. Nice. Kidnapping is a profession now. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thumbnail for this on YouTube. I'm sorry, what? Hey Dexter. Nakara, or no, Nakara, thank you for that 6-month support, buddy. We're going to look at these professions real quick. We can start off with that. Put this over. Let's take a look at this real quick. So, based off of what we see here, we're going to pour over this, but can almost guarantee you that this is not going to be an exhaustive list, nor will it really be. It's more of just them playing around with the icons than necessarily exact professions. That would be my guess. That would be my prelude to this whole thing. Is I wouldn't read a lot into this because it feels very much more like exploration than it is final work. But for instance, we've got medicine, bounty hunting, assassination, mining, racing, career, espionage, security, hired muscle, and emergency response. All of those seem to be pretty in line with the main ones we have. Plus they have salvage, theft, smuggling, hauling, and kidnapping. Now obviously theft and kidnapping would be professions that would be done for criminals, with smuggling as well being more of a criminal export. You notice how there's multiple icons. That doesn't mean there's multiple crimes. Those are just different icons they're exploring. There's also hired muscle somewhere. Yeah, but it's not on this list for some reason. This is just pulled straight from that as well. Action archaeological possession would be amazing. I think it's going to happen. Is Sadaball there? Sadaball's not going to happen. Stop trying to make it happen, Bristol boy. How you doing, buddy? I'm holding out for the historian profession. I got my smuggling. I'm good. There's no bartender, though. Those reputation UIs for criminal stuff seem to indicate a hopeful departure from the old crime stat system. I hope. Lord, I hope. Everyone knows that I am not a fan of that. Hello, yes, I'm here for the kidnapping. Just a thought, with the way that they talked about adding more available hangars to Lagrange points, we could see we could be on track to having a higher server cap soon. Yes. I mean, we're going to talk about it. Hey, 4C. Archaeology hype. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too. Hey, come check. This chat got really busy really quickly. The kidnap icon is perfect. No refueling icon. I'm imagining that's under emergency response. Oh, I didn't see hired muscle. Yeah, hired muscle. There it is there. I'd imagine that'd be under emergency response. Corporate espionage, baby. I'm looking forward to get wrapped for my muscles. This one has the reputation of being the crusher. And this one, he is the lover. That's pretty cool. Hey, Spacescape. Scape, I should say. Spacescape. Where's the historian Lord of War badge? There is only one Lord of Lore. And that's me. You don't need a badge for that. I exist. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is I look at that and I'm like, I am not thinking about kidnapping when you see those sorts of that sort of position and those sorts of restraints, if you know what I mean. Is there a hacking rep? Doesn't look like they have anything on here. Again, though, that might be an indication of theft. Remember, there's a lot of things that are going to kind of fall into other things. Like, we already have a separation between bounty hunting and assassination. Hired muscle is different from security. And courier is different from hauling. But salvage is salvage, mining is mining, medicine is medicine. And emergency response seems to be different from medicine. So if emergency response is different from medicine, then I'm imagining emergency response is also like repair and refuel and rearming. Kidnapping, because how else are you going to get people to staff the Drake brothel? Perfect game. Board an 890 full of VIPs, kidnap them and hold them for ransom. Exactly. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know about the Artemis thing, I was starting to do research, and one of my fans pointed out, I don't think the Lost Generation story is canon. And because I was like, where did you get that? Because I've heard that before, where some of the stories are canon and some of them aren't. Some of them are like fiction within the fiction. Basically a story within the universe. And find out, the Lost Generation story is not true. It's made up in the lore. Meaning it's kind of like the Indiana Jones of Star Citizen. Like how Indiana Jones is a movie for us. the Lost Generation is kind of like a book or a new movie for them. So as a result, everything in the Lost Generation story is not canon. So anything that they talk about, like including finding a piece of the Artemis's engine in the Stanton system, and all these sorts of like finding a backup copy of Janus and talking with them, all of that is complete fabrication within the lore. So as a result, I decided not to do a follow-up Artemis story because quite literally all we have is the one story that I already told in the AI stuff. So do these icons imply mission effects or activity effects? What do you mean? What do you, like they generally mean reputation with specific missions or specific mission givers. Hey, Nighthawk. I have a random lore question. You just ask in chat. I'll answer it as long as it's appropriate. So the AI didn't kill the Artemis. We don't know. The last we know is that the AI was the AI stopped responding to return calls, so we don't know what happened. Now CIG has been very, very clear that they want the fate of the Artemis to be decided by the players. I just thought because the story of Lost Generation kind of ends in a cliffhanger, so you don't actually know the full story of the Artemis, you just kind of follow the path. So I thought maybe they'd leave it open enough for players, but apparently it's not even true. So, like the rep UI is more affected by how much you salvage rather than how many salvage missions you took. It's important to remember that these UIs are basically generic UIs to tell you what type of missions they are. So for instance, if you are working with Crusader security, then you will have the security icon next to the Crusader security rep. So you'll know that it's a security rep thing. But that reputation isn't like your overall security rep forever. It's for Crusader security. Now, they may have a separate security rep for how well you do security jobs overall, but that doesn't mean that you are going to get like expert elite levels in security at some point. It's just going to be that determines like how well you are liked amongst certain people. So even if you have a high level in a general security reputation, that doesn't necessarily mean you will get high level security jobs everywhere. They've even said that they'll break it down into individual they can give fucking chairs reputation. They've even said that they can give a table reputation if we wanted to. That's how granular it is. Hey Jake, how's it going? I've heard there was talk of kidnapping in here. It's a trait. It's a woof woof. But they can give the lamp a reputation. They can. They have to discover the system Gliese 667 and jump gate to it. My theory is they survived, or maybe they didn't. Yeah, we'll see. The icon implies a lot more than just kidnapping, if you know what I mean. I'm wondering if you can get kidnapping bad people instead of good ones. We'll see. Like I said, it's important to remember that everything we see here is kind of them exploring ideas. So there's nothing in here that says concrete. Do not take all of these as promises. There's not going to necessarily be a kidnapping profession. It's just there as a idea expression. And this is one of those things where, like, when I say things like, when you hear people say, "Oh, your average person doesn't understand game development," this is what they mean. Because there are so many people who will say everything in this list is going to be in the game as a profession and then start theory crafting about it, when in reality, these are just concepts for what they want to do. And at any point, they could say, you know what? This idea about a kidnapping profession sounds stupid as shit. Let's just remove that. And they might. So, hey Fox, how you doing? We're gonna kidnap the lore daddy and force him to do lore every day. God damn. Only if you pay me. All right, I'm gonna pull up the video because I have listened to it like once or twice, but I want to make sure I got it properly. I like that I really understand what it says, because that's always important. Be very, very specific in terms of what you're hearing. And then pull up the
So let's combine the two and look over to Orison and look at some new executive office, the ring structure of some space citizen to mining, landing and takeoff experience as players travel across the Star Citizen persistent universe. Let's switch gears here. From bounty hunting to mining, from emergency response to racing to espionage and security, as the reputation system continues to grow and expand within Star Citizen, so too must the interface that represents it. To that end, explorations are underway mapping out the representative icons for some of the various mission-type career paths currently in development for the persistent universe.
Okay, so you'll notice how it says military liaison over here, policing, escorting, protection, and it's got the icon, which is a way of saying military liaison. You could say outsourcing professional, and it has the kidnapping icon, which is, outsourcing professional might be a euphemism used by a corporation or a company or a pirate group or even a security, like the advocacy. But the icon tells you what type of profession it is. So someone was asking, like, what does this represent? That's what it represents. If that makes sense. And these are all just mock-ups. So effectively, these are just concepts of ideas and mock-ups for things that they already have in planned.
Now, in a recent sprint, icons for several more reputation paths were proposed, including kidnapping, hauling, smuggling,
my favorite,
and theft. Now, these aren't the full array of possible reputation paths, just a few that the UI team is currently making icons for. But we'll be covering more about this massive expansion of the reputation system and the various mission types and activities that go along with it as development continues. Yes, I can already tell that some of you are a little too excited to build your reputation in kidnapping. And it bothers me.
It shouldn't, Jared. It shouldn't. Oh, I gotta play a game with that guy too. Is IC fun? IC is great. You should watch IC if you haven't ever done so. I'm not gonna watch through all of it, but oh yeah, I don't know you, but I've heard from a contest list you can handle this job and need to get done. If it gets done, we might throw you more contracts your way. Yeah, effectively. Do you think this game will ever just have too many ideas and give up and crash before it's done? Possibly. But one of the advantages that Star Citizen has that other games don't is that it has like backers rather than, financiers or a publisher. So like a publisher eventually has to answer to its shareholders. So they're going to worry about, can this game make money? They don't give a shit if it's fun or not, or if it's interesting or whatever, or what the fans want. They just care if they can sell it. Same with most, it's actually worse for people who are like investors because they're looking to like turn around a company really quickly and sell it as much as possible. Buy low, sell incredibly high. So they want people to make incredibly grandiose concepts so that they can sell them for bonkers amounts of money. And they usually fail as a result. So the basic answer is, do I think they could fail? Yeah. But at the very least, I'd rather them try than, end up like Battlefield 2042 or Cyberpunk or any of the other myriad of games which were hyped to hell and then became disappointments at launch. And if that means they got to take more time and they're going to explore some ideas, that's fine. But I don't speak for everyone. I just speak for myself. I thought they were focusing on their developer efforts in Squadron 42. So how are they working on the PU? That's a misnomer, y'all. Let's tackle a couple of things real quickly, because we're going to talk about Squadron 42 as well here in a bit. There's a thing I've heard where people think that like literally everything's being worked on Squadron and nothing's going for Star Citizen. So it's doom and gloom and nothing's going to get made and put into Star Citizen. That's not what they said. That's not what they've ever said. They said the focus is on Squadron, which means that they want to get stuff implemented and added into Squadron first and then released to the PU. That doesn't mean stuff added to Squadron and then we see it 7 years later. That means stuff getting added to Squadron and then being released the next patch or two to Star Citizen. And Jake is also pointing out that the movement was primarily a core gameplay pillar as well, not necessarily all of the teams. Yeah. Kidnap Jared in game? That's a good question. Yeah. I've heard, you're not the first person I've heard like kind of like doom and gloom. Star Citizen is doomed because it's no longer focusing on the things it's supposed to focus on or whatever. And a lot of that is just poor reading, because most people don't want to read the conflict because it's a wall of text. They'd rather have someone interpret it for them, like myself or Board Gamer or Salty Mike. And the problem is that if you listen to our commentary, you're going to get our coloration of that commentary because we're humans and we have opinions. I am not going to shy away from my opinions about Star Citizen. As a result, anything you hear from me is biased. That's the reality of humans. So this is my teacher side. Read before you start taking anyone else's word for it. Read it, interpret it, internalize it, and then look for other people's opinions. Because what matters is what your own read into it is based off the facts you understand, not what somebody else says. It's a lot easier to listen to somebody else. Fuck, it's a shit ton easier to listen to someone else. Especially if they speak from a position of authority. But if you're not doing your own research, you're just hurting yourself. That's a lesson for life, let alone Star Citizen. You sound like a fun teacher, Paul. I'm a very fun teacher. I make my kids read and they hate it. Sci-fi, thanks for those gift subs. I meant it. I'm not the best teacher in the world. Definitely not the worst teacher in the world, but I make do. Wait, as a human, every human has a bias, and if you claim neutral, you're a liar? Yes. Yes, actually. Anyone who claims to be perfectly neutral doesn't understand. And it's maybe that's just my historical training, like being, going to school for history and learning a lot about historiography and sources and how to read sources and such, about how like your own bias is going to color a lot of things, including the interpretation of history, because historians have that power, which is a lot of fucking power, and we take it very seriously. At least the ones who are trained, which is the reason why whenever I see somebody who's like an amateur historian, which is basically like someone who's read a book, go out and start doing history stuff. My first thought is they have no idea what they're doing, and not as some like, I am an intellectual, and these are just peasants. It's more like you didn't go through the training or the understanding and the details that I've had to gone through college, which I learned, expressions of like how history has been seen in the past, how historians have colored it, how individuals in history colored their own experiences. And so, whenever I see someone like that talking, my first thought is, I can't trust this person. I don't know who this person is. I don't know where they got this information from. They're going to spin me a narrative no matter what I hear. Sometimes if I'm just listening for fun, I'm like, ha ha, funny men say aliens built pyramids. But sometimes it's just like, man, I want to watch this, but this guy seems sketch as shit. Our beer's not working? My bot may be broken. You can try it again. Let me make sure it's connected. Yeah, they're both connected. Or did you order one? There you go. It's not an automatic thing. Ever listen to Hardcore History by Dan Carlin? I have. It's interesting. A lot of it is pretty basic, though. Like, hardcore history is not always super in-depth. It's more historian's history, but there's a pejorative term that's used in history circles called popular history. And it's similar to the same kind of pejorative term for popular science and popular, that whole concept of like pop science, where it's like some people who really like science, who haven't actually had any training, are talking about science. And it's like, you don't want to discourage those people because they help bring people in and encourage them to enjoy the sciences. Same with popular history. Popular history gets people into history. People love fucking tanks, both like metaphorically and literally. Shit exploding, arguing about who has the best aircraft carrier, talking about who was the best warrior in history, who was the best general in history. What would happen if this general fought this general? Like all of these sorts of crazy concepts are great, and they're great ways of getting people interested in history, because no one gives a shit about the tale of a midwife in mid-century America or mid-17th century America. That's not something that people get involved in history for. I love that shit because it gives me a lot of context and understanding for the world that these people lived in. But you get started with, the Battle of Kursk, Stalingrad, D-Day, the Battle of the Bulge, the Ardennes Forest, Tripoli, those sorts of things. Basically a History Channel. The History Channel before the History Channel became what it is today. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here. It's a weird tangent from please read your sources to like my own discussions at history. Oh yeah, let's see this Star Citizen Funding Tracker. Let's see how that boycott's doing. I see. Let's just casually bring up this. I had a better one of that, I thought. I don't have to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let the pictures speak for themselves. Let's read the full Modern Warfare thing, because I thought I had a better picture of that, more higher res version than that. Yeah, that's basically it. And now this is not me shitting on people who feel like they don't want to support Star Citizen personally because they want X, Y, or Z. That's fine. That's your personal choice. I'm not shitting on anyone who wants to make personal decisions on those sorts of things. You do you. That's valid. Whatever. Like I don't care. You know, your personal decisions are none of my business. But it goes to point out the fact that I pointed out that everyone called me smug for pointing out, which is boycotts that gamers do don't work. They just don't work. It's been less than a week and they've made $1 million on a hover bike. Like, what do I have to say? Did I mention I have hover quads? The Last of the Cutlass Red are pretty awesome. Off topic, but thanks for telling me about Laser Pig on YouTube. I've been laughing my ass off. He's fucking hilarious. The only problem about Laser Pig is he doesn't have enough content yet. He's very low on content. Everything about making a community on Guilded. I did make a community on Guilded, and I never used it. It's still there, though. I've always baffled that many Americans I've met neither heard of the War of 1812 nor the Bag of Pigs invasion. Is the reason for this? As a Canadian, I'm genuinely curious. The War of 1812 isn't really taught in schools, not because it's, taboo, but because it really doesn't fit in with how we teach history in the United States. Because we have a certain amount of time we have to cover, the War of 1812 isn't as directly important as, say, the Civil War. Like slavery is a pretty big deal in U.S. history. And to understand slavery, you have to understand the Mexican-American War. You have to understand slavery in the United States, things like Uncle Tom's Cabin, Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln, the Republicans, the Democrats, the Missouri Compromise, Bleeding Kansas, all of these things, which are complicated issues that you have to figure out. And the War of 1812 is effectively in history just the end of the Revolutionary War, like the thing that sealed America as not just being a bunch of colonies. So it's not really, it's more of a footnote than anything. Same with like the Bay of Pigs invasion, because American school gets so that's towards the end of school. So we often have like state mandated tests and our own finals and a bunch of other things that happen towards the end of spring semesters. The Cold War often is like maybe 4 weeks of content. And that's a lot of content to put into 4 weeks. And again, the focus isn't on Cuba. The focus is on the Vietnam War, because that's a lot more of an impactful kind of societal changing event than the Bay of Pigs. It means that we have less content, less context for things like Nicaragua, for the Cuban, the situations with Cuba, as well as things like, how did America secure itself, against foreign powers and its own relationship with Europe for many years after the War of 1812, which was very hostile. And one of the reasons why America helped fund the Mexicans against the French during the French invasion of Mexico, which we don't teach either, because we were in the middle of fighting the Civil War, so we didn't really give a lot of money or troops to Mexico, but we did. So. You didn't know that America supplied arms and troops to Mexico when France invaded Mexico? Yeah, we did. When Napoleon invaded Mexico, the whole Cinco de Mayo thing, Abraham Lincoln sent troops and weapons to Mexico to help them fight the French. Because the French were invading Mexico because America was in the middle of a civil war. So they thought that the Americans wouldn't fuck with them. We did. Yeah, but by that time, Beam, we were not really supported. By that time, America was very much, all of this is ours. Fuck off. Like, that was America's stance for many years after the revolution. And 1812, the War of 1812 kind of sealed it, because the War of 1812 was dragged America into this global conflict, which we got our ass kicked left, right, and center. And except for naval battles, we kicked the shit out of the British Navy in naval battles. That's because we fought on our terms, because we're fuckers. So we won like 2 battles and beat the shit out of a bunch of British frigates, bullied a bunch of British frigates, and managed to tell the British to piss off. That's the Monroe Doctrine happened after that, which is just basically like, get fucked. Which was also incredibly American, because it's like North and South America is the protectorate of America. It's like, we don't have a, what? we don't even have like Mexico has a bigger armor than we do. What are you doing? And they just formed as a country. John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones was the one who landed in the British. Enough. I know people will listen to me talk about history forever. But do they teach kids that the U.S. gave Stinger missiles to the Taliban in the 80s and not to the Russians? We don't have time. Like quite literally, we just don't have time. Like, put it this way, because of a bunch of issues with COVID and a bunch of other bureaucratic BS that we've had to do as a department, I'm the head of my world history department. We aren't even going to get to the Cold War this year because we just don't have time to. We have to cover all of these topics, and because it's not a tested subject, they don't really care. So they throw us all of the BS stuff, like class registration and all these other little like wild-haired ideas that the administration has or the district has. We're the ones who have to deal with it because we're the history that no one, they have to have, but it's not tested, so they don't care. As a result, we're maybe going to get to the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. So, and that's the sort of the soft problems of education that a lot of people don't realize, is that it's not just me sitting there and teaching. It's like I have to be a teacher, an administrator, a bureaucrat, a counselor, a surrogate parent. Like, I do a lot of things, and I just don't have enough time for it. All right. With all the new Valentine skins they added the CIG story, is it possible that they add a freelancer for skin for sale? Please, CIG. That's for steak and a blowjob day, Jay. That's for after that. Make school throughout the entire year, but with 3-day weekends. What would help would be to go to trimesters rather than semesters, and having giant 1-month breaks between each trimester. So start in August, go until November, and then just kind of come back in January, and then go from January to like March or April, and then have a month, and then come back in like July, like June, July, and then have 3 months and that kind of thing. Instead of having these little breaks in between, just having those big chunks, because it gives people the time off they need, teachers and students times off they need to do other things. But it also, but it's not so long that they forget things. But, you know, education reform in the United States is a joke because the love rocket. Yeah. Let's get back on topic though. Not back on topic. I'd like to see the rework of the Freelancer series, just the interior. I think it's going to happen at some point. It's going to have to with like internal storage and stuff like that. We don't have time. That's what I heard from Polish history teachers trying to teach over 1,000 years of history in 3 years of school. Yeah, it's a lot of history. There's a lot of context that you get dropped. Like, I'm a historian, But my specialty is in medieval European history, and specifically medieval Northern Italian and British history. And even then, it's only like late medieval Italian and like early medieval British. Incredibly specific, because that's still a fuck ton of information. Are you surprised the Hull A is getting the release before the cargo refactor? No, because the Hull A doesn't need the cargo refactor, because it's one of those ships that can land without its cargo, can land with its cargo attached. So they don't really have to model anything. I think they already set the trend because of the raft. The raft had the same thing. Before and after the gold standard passes, they're just not on the priority right now. Just getting ships out is the problem right now. Yeah. I mean, they'll always have ships coming out, but they've got a lot of backlog they got to get through. Imagine trying to teach Chinese history in 3 to 4 years. I don't want to try. The whole series can land in water in the future. We don't know if that's true or not. I understand China has like the second largest continuous history after Egypt or something like that. Something like that, yeah. The problem is that like a lot of the stuff we understand from like China and Egypt, it gets blurry because a lot of it is myth, not really history, because it's put together from broken fragments of what we have left from thousands of years of history. Now I'm trying to work out how many hover quads to buy. Who mentioned this? Sorry. Do I think it'll come with permanent boxes attached to it first then? I don't think it'll have any boxes attached to it. I think it'll be blank. And then you'll either have magic boxes like we have now. By the way, I don't think anyone has realized, it took me so long to realize this, that when you see boxes show up in your hangar, like in your ship, they're not there. You can run through them. You just assume that they're physical, so you try to go around them, but they're actually invisible. They're hollow. So they'll either have something like that first, or they just won't even show them. Like, because a lot of times they don't even register. So I don't think the Hull A will even have boxes. Yeah, the boxes on ships. Like when you buy commodities and like you come back to your ship and you see these boxes stacked up in your hot cargo hold from the commodities, they're not actually physicalized. They're just kind of representations. They're a great place to hide if you're sneaking on board someone else's ship. Yeah. Do I think they can only certain commodities will come with the whole series boxes? No, because I don't think you're going to have any dedicated boxes attached to the ship. It's important to remember that the whole series isn't a trade vessel. They're cargo ships, which means with the hull, you're likely never going to be transporting your own goods. You'll be transporting other people's goods. So it'll be attaching the big boxes to your own gravity or like whatever, your cargo grid. But it won't be your boxes. Okay, so as Blizzard suggested, can we just get like a history stream? It seemed very fun. We can talk about that. I've been thinking about doing more like non-Star Citizen stuff on Mondays, like a stream like where I paint just minis and stuff. I'm thinking about doing talking head on the level of abuse Reds receive from Blues, and the fact that I think Blues don't understand what the game actually is worth it, or am I just getting memed on? I have no idea what Reds and Blues are. You're talking about like people who are getting what? Like You do what you need to, buddy. Like, if you feel like it's a good topic, do it. Or play Apex Legends with your friend Jake. Yes. Warhammer lore stream. I could. There's so many lore. Like, I don't like doing lore for something like Warhammer or Star Trek or Star Wars. Not because I don't like the lore from it, but like, there are like thousands of different streams and like video series that talk about that lore. So it's just like, why? I'd rather do stuff where there isn't really many people there yet, so I can, you know, be the ground floor of that. Are the large boxes going to be limited to one commodity like they are with the 1SCU boxes? Probably not. The way that I understand the big boxes work is they work as kind of a box for boxes. So if you want to think about it, the tiny little SCU boxes you carry aren't even full SCUs. They're like a quarter of an SCU. The 1SCU boxes are when you buy like commodities and it shows up in your cargo grid. That's a 1SCU box. And so the bigger cargo containers actually have 1SCUs and tiny boxes inside those containers. So they're less of boxes and more cargo, like, or shipping containers, similar to like you'd see in modern day shipping containers on the back of like 18-wheelers. Yeah, the best way to consume Star Wars lore is to watch Wretched Highs Season 1, available on The Spice Must Roll. YouTube.com/C/The Spice Must Roll. Lore ranking: Stargate, Expanse, Warhammer, Star Wars, Thrawn. Lore ranking in terms of best lore? Personal preference? I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't. It's hard for me to be like. It's like I'm that parent. It's like I love all my children equally. I love all people equally. I would say for the ease and fun of getting into it, like how easy it is to get into it, is Star Wars first. Star Wars is so accessible to any age range. There is more adult stuff in Star Wars, but most of it is very kid-friendly. And you can watch like television shows and cartoons and read comics and read novels. There's lots of cool stuff like that. It's very kid-friendly, so it's approachable. And then I would say after Star Wars would be Warhammer, but just because there's like 40 years of it. So if you just like fantasy or space, and you could probably find something that you like in that universe. Because they've done pretty much everything you can think of: comedy, horror, romance, suspense, thriller. They have entire genres. There's an entire new genre they've created called crime thriller. So they have entire crime thriller novel series in the Warhammer universe of like cops, like noir cop investigations. Kid friendly, yeah. I mean, PG-13. Seriously, I've received a lot of abuse considering then when I RP a play. Oh, you're talking about like criminals versus non-criminals. That's what I get. I get what you're saying. You could do the video, but I think the problem is that most, I've said this before and it's not meant as like an insult, but there's a lot of people who play this game with ridiculous expectations of what the game should be. You know, a lot of people want to pretend that Star Citizen is this single player experience that they don't have to deal with other people. And CIG has gone out of its way to explain to these people, no, it's not. It's an MMO. If you want to play the single player, play, Squadron. You're going to have to interact with other people at some point. And, large groups are going to have advantages in places like Pyro and places that are super lawless or unexplored. And I think it's that same kind of mentality that you see in people who are like effectively harassing PvP players, often pirate players, because they're like, oh, all pirate players are griefers. It's like, no, there are people who are just dicks, but Even if someone's just being a dick, it's still part of the game. You know, get good or figure out how to defend yourself. But the problem is that those people don't see it that way. They have their own interpretation of what the game should be, and they just kind of are. So if making any kind of content discussing that is almost a waste of time, I would say, because those players don't give a shit. In their mind, they're justified. These are the same people who think like prison should be a punishment for players instead of being gameplay. You know? Yeah. Yeah, Clone Wars is full of war crimes and essentially an allegory for war on terror. Yeah, no, it's terrible, but it's digestible, kid-friendly. Alien's dark, yeah. I think Warhammer has the biggest hurdle to get into, but now it's 90% of my audiobooks. I need more plastic. Yeah, I get you. Oh, supreme tyrant of lore, of universe, oracle incarnation of the Galactopedia, master of nerdy stuff. How art thou today? God damn it! I have turned myself into some sort of old wise sage. I'm not against it. It's just fucking weird sometimes. Question. Do I believe a Tomb of the Fallen might happen in Star Citizen? I'd like for it to happen. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier or Tomb of the Fallen, a memorial to the dead, would make sense. Just because in lore it makes sense as kind of a tomb for people who were lost during the advancement of years, people who've been lost for exploration missions or for military campaigns that went awry. Something is just a place where people who don't have closure to go to mourn their dead. But also in Star Citizen as a place where you're going to see people who've died, you know, especially after COVID. Somebody who's been on the captain's table, Twistar, was on the captain's table multiple times. I knew him. He died of COVID recently. Friend of Noobifier's and I's. I think you could do it for both. I think you could do it for in lore and also as a kind of a nod to backers, to those we lost along the way kind of thing. Hey, Max. How dangerous are jump point lore-wise? When you first chart them, incredibly dangerous. But once you have the navigational data to jump through a wormhole, a jump point, it's the nav computer takes over. That's why you don't actually have piloting controls when you're through a jump point. You just are kind of riding the rapids because the nav computer is making all the sort of micro adjustments that you aren't. But if you over adjust when the computer is trying to adjust for you, you can hit the sides and explode. So, operation, only with a lot more explosions. Yep. The beacon is now lit. Hey, Papa Hefe. I don't mind pirating, but I think it needs to be an unspoken gentleman's agreement that you tell someone you're about to murder them. That's kind of Bushido stuff that doesn't really need to be in Star Citizen, but... Do I think we'll get to see the Krthok? Yeah. I don't think for a long time. Once Star Citizen reaches out of alpha and into an actual release, then yeah, we'll see. But though I think Lombax, the reality is that the game itself, speaking of reputation systems, the game itself is going to be designed in a way that if you are killing people for the sake of killing people, for the fun, for the lulz, or say pirating gone bad, or you immediately go to guns for pirating rather than trying to negotiate or peacefully deal with traders like that or miners, your reputation will start to tank, not just with lawful organizations, but unlawful organizations, because the more loud you are on a trade lane, the more activity you're going to see with the Quanta, which is a pretty easy plug for them to make. I say it's easy. Nothing in game development is easy, but it's part of the system that they're designing. So naturally, people who are pirates who are just like, ha ha ha, kill everyone, let God sort them out, will end up pissing off even pirate NPCs and isolating themselves from refuel, restock, rearmament, which will basically put them on hard mode. So anybody who wants to do that better be a really goddamn good pilot. They better be Keller levels of good in Keller's run. Are the Krthak the Hun analog? No, not that we know of. They may be. The Krthak are more like the Chinese analog or the Japanese analog or the the Arabian analog. They're the people who've been fighting a generation-long war with the Xi'an. If you want to think of this as like what originally kind of based off of, it's not the same, but its original basis was like end of the Roman Empire. The Xi'an are like the Persians. They're more like Chinese than Persians, but they're the kind of stand-in for the Persians, for the Seleucids. Reputation is not going to reset on permadeath. That's not how that works. Reputation continues on permadeath. It may drop down a little bit, but you inherit the reputation from your previous person. Now, that means that you lose some reputation with unlawful gangs, or get a little bit better reputation because you're not your father, effectively. But you're still the son of a psychopath, or you're still the, like, close friend of a psychopath. They're not going to really trust you as much. Best arguments I've seen against PvP is there's no safe area to learn the game yet. Once they add that, I see a lot of the crying will lose weight. I mean, when Pyro comes out, I think once Pyro comes out, you'll see a lot of people. You'll still see people crying. People will say, "I deserve to go to Pyro and have an experience." It's like, brother, that's what Xenothreat is. You're goody two shoes going to Pyro. You might as well walk down like Tijuana at night wearing a $7 million suit. You're just asking to get mugged and stolen from. You almost deserve it, you dumbass. How does permanent work lore-wise? You're dead. You have deceased. You have ceased to be. You are no longer. You've gone to the great beyond. Do I need to continue doing the Monty Python sketch? When you're dead, you're dead. You can no longer be regened, because the way that death works in Star Citizen is you have the ability to be regenerated through a thing called the Ibrahim Sphere, which is literally alien technology we stole from the Xi'an, from the Banu. No, not Banu, not Xi'an. Not the Varn, everything but the Vanduul. We stole it from the Vanduul. We don't know what they use it or how they use it for them, but we know how it works, but that's about it. It's combined with this regen serum that was developed by Biotic Corp, and together they create this essentially 3D printing human beings in a flash, with all of their memories and everything remembered. But because you have all your memories, you remember when you died, which can cause trauma echoes to come back into your body, and then that can cause things like your arm not to grow back properly because your brain saw your arm get cut off. So you're effectively walking, talking PTSD. And eventually those echoes, which are basically kind of like copy errors in the print that is your body, just build up to the point where you just cannot be reprinted. That's called ghosting, or the that's what permadeath is in the verse. It's still possible. You're not immortal, but you slowly go down. And when that happens in lore, effectively you inherit all of your wealth and reputation, all that goes to a different person that you create a replacement for. And in that, you'll lose some of the wealth from death taxes and such. And you lose reputation because you're not your father or you're the brother or the best friend or whatever. Wife, whatever. Wife, husband, whatever. Yeah, Imperator Addison heard about it and then just was like, everyone gets to live forever. Make it cheap. When you go to Pyro and you think you deserve an experience and you get killed by a player that gave you that experience. Hi. And Stanton has 9 tails, so it's more than just 9 tails, though. You have Xenothreat, you have the Fire Rats, you have the God, what do they call it? I always just call them the Enforcers. There's like at some point there was a reference of like 6 or 7 gangs all vying for power. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit who you are. Unless you have a good working relationship with them, you are meat for the grinder. You either pay for your passage through their territory or you pay other ways, like your ship and your life. That's like, Pyro is not a nice place to go. In lore or in game and in game will be a place where it's the wild fucking West. And each little section of Pyro is owned by its own little tin pot dictator with their own rules and their own ways of doing things. And they're all fighting for power. The Overlords, thank you. 9 tails isn't Stanton, yes. The argument was like, that's where Xenothreat is, but 9 tails isn't Stanton. Yeah, but Stanton also has Crusader security, Blackjack security, Hurston security, Microtech security, the UEE. It has forces of law and order, which Pyro doesn't. You're going to piss people off doing PvP stuff there is all. You will, but it's going to happen anyways. There was someone who was arguing earlier that like when Pyro opens up, like because there's no place to learn the game, that's why people are a little bit more against PvP. It's like, I get it, but when Pyro opens up, that's literally lawless Wild West. Anything goes. There's not even a crime reporting system in the Pyro, so. If you count Xenothreat as law, they technically are the law. Question: what gang would you like to see take Ruin Station? The Fire Rats, for the meme. Those of you who don't know, the Fire Rats are the player-created gang that was done over a Star Citizen Live session. They created a cult-like gang called the Fire Rats, who are like orphans who kind of banded together and they live in deep caves in Pyro. Ninetales got to support our home team. Yeah. They worship the sun. Yeah, they worship the sun. But the big question is when the Nautilus comes out, there's going to be a no fire zone around the jump point in Pyro because there's not going to be everywhere Pyro, because if there's not, there's going to be mines everywhere around that jump point. There's not going to be a no fire zone. The way that CIG I think is going to work through this, they've already kind of talked about this in the past, is the idea of having multiple entrances and exits. There's a main entrance and a main exit, but because of the nature of it, there's little side passages and like tributaries of a river kind of thing, which will lead into the same systems, like in and out of the same systems, but they won't lead directly to where the gate is. So they may not be big for bigger ships, but smaller ships can pick their way through, which will then allow for it be much more difficult to camp that. That's something they've talked about since very early on, because they know that gate camping was going to be a problem. So that's what I hope. Hey, Blue. Let me get back to work. Thanks you, SF Shingo. Thanks for hanging out. Not Peter Pan. No. Cleanse yourself in the fire. Praise the sun. Hey, merchantman is the 890 of cargo running. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically what it is. Crusader is high-sex system. God help those people who want to travel into a less secure system. Yeah. Yeah. Each frayed end is an entrance or exit, but they all combine to make, they all come through the same. Think of it as like a river. Like the entrances to a jump point on either side of a jump point is like a delta, like a river delta. And the different, like there's one major river, like where the river meets the ocean or where the river meets the sea. But there's also these fanned out little smaller streams and rivers that come off of that delta. However, this is like two deltas which meet in the middle. So there may be a central point which all of these rivers and deltas kind of meet together. Maybe they all break off at different locations, but they're all part of the same system. Hey, thank you so much for that 11 months. Oh, I got it way behind. This room is way behind. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Blue. Ash, it will force people to play in groups. They'll need to support to travel to Pyro. Yeah. And a lot of people won't like that because a lot of people are like, oh, new place I'm going to go explore by myself with my Carrick and my own just lonesome. Like that's a recipe for death. Well, we need somewhere to plex our orgs battle groups. Pyro is a good place to start. Someone was saying that like earlier in the stream, they was asking like they're going to be adding new hangars to stations, and especially with ring stations. Does that mean they're going to increase, player cap? And the answer is yes. Like I know we've been going through the last week or so of this like utter cloud, I guess you could say, of like everything sucks about Star Citizen, but that hasn't stopped development. And they have been very upfront that they want to increase the player size. They want to increase the player size to 100 at some point in the next year. In fact, they want to release persistence and server meshing by this year. That doesn't mean they'll do it, but they're working towards it. So anything they do in the next 6 to 12 months is entirely dedicated towards that goal. There's some other goals in there as well, but thank you, RD Madeira, for that 11 months. Some beers in there. Are there more valuable resources in Pyro than Stanton? I don't think I've heard of minerables or different cargo, stuff like that. Yeah. Effectively, I think they're going to make, I think you've even said this, is they're going to make very high valuable resources, which will make a lot of money in Pyro. But the reason why it wasn't mined out was because of Pyro is so dangerous to be in. So like a major mining operation wouldn't work, but small independent mining operations might, though you're also working against gangs. So it's going to be a little more complicated. I also think things like Ruin Station will be very much lacking in basic supplies of food, water, and medical supplies, probably even clothes. So if you want to go trade for those basic supplies, which are super cheap in Stanton, but very expensive out in Pyro, you can make a lot of money. But you're going to have to, the only thing they have out there is drugs. Lots of drugs. And those drugs are going to be going straight back to Stanton, because that's the only other place you're going to go. You're going to have to come turn that around and sell it back in Stanton, and that's illegal. That's illegal, sir. Someone's talking about something about worms. I don't see anyone talk about worms. Oh, what happened to the sandworms? Lear 3. Sandworms are in Lear 3. It's a different system. But they're also working on a lot of like animals and stuff like that too. No. No. Yeah, it periodically sends out solar flares and will cook you. It's an unstable sun. How cool would it be the 20-person NPC taxi mission to be your 890, like a high-price cruise? I think that's the plan. I think that's the plan in the long run. Yes. The sandworms are on Lear 2 or Lear 3, one of the two, which is a completely different system. We're more likely going to see the Boreal Stalker, which is a Yeti-like, bear-like creature, which lives in Microtech. The Kazi Grazer, which is a space cow. It's a cow that doesn't have udders. It has an egg sac. Disturbing. And the Ranta, the Blind Oni Crab, which is a Metroid-like floating, disgusting abomination that's filled with hydrogen gas that's afloat, which is also literally eats garbage. And then the storm wall, the space whale, which lives in the atmosphere of Crusader. Kazi, not quasi, Kazi. Like Kazi. Exact cow, yeah. Do you need a safe word to fight? Yes. I want to fist boreal stalkers. That's the old joke, Delta. Yeah, Wampa ice creatures, yeah. You can dodge or hide from the flares, right? Yeah, underground. Or you can like ride them out. One of the things they want to do, which is pretty obvious before they release Pyro, want to and are able to, are two different things, obviously, is to introduce radiation damage to ships and to players by the time Pyro comes out. So, like, you're not just having to deal with the pirates or the gangs, I should say not really pirates, the gangs, but you also have to deal with the unstable star, sending out cooking radiation everywhere. Are you the lore guy? I'm not. I don't work for CIG. I am a lore guy, though. I do a lot of lore for Star Citizen, yes. Didn't hear no safe word. And there's the Pyro Crab. I wouldn't be surprised if when Pyro comes in, we have the Pyro Crab as well, as some sort of mini-boss for a mission to clear out the Pyro Crab infestation. My only hope is that when we get the Pyro Crab, we also get the Titan suits, the Titan combat suits, so we can have kaiju battle. Not really kaiju, but robot versus giant kaiju. So we can have. Don't be fooled, he's the Lord of Lore, yeah. Yeah, I don't work for CIG. I just like lore, so I do a lot of lore videos and stuff like that. Question, can I clone my space cow? Yes. Why would you, though? You want to see the space cow? Let me show you the space cow. It's disgusting. It looks like, Come on. Thank you for that raid there, Chew Toy. How you doing, buddy? Shots and cheers in chat. Welcome to the Astropub. I'm going to show you something disgusting now. Welcome. Welcome. Here's disgusting. Content warning. You may vomit. That's a cow. It has the taste. Apparently it tastes very good. It's like a chicken mixed with a cow, because the way that you eat the Kazi grazer is you can cook it. You can kill and cook a Kazi grazer like you can cook a cow, but the little udders it has there are actually eggs, and you can also harvest the eggs and eat them like you can like chicken eggs, though they're huge in comparison. Kazi grazers are found in the Kazi region of Terra. So this is one of the few like creatures that is naturally it can live in Earth-like atmospheres, because Terra Prime is the is naturally Earth-like. So a lot of like the creatures you see you will see in the verse are essentially creatures we see here on Earth, but also fantastic space creatures which are mostly from Terra. Because when they terraform a planet, they have to kill all of the life that's on that planet and then replace it with life that is more human standard. That's an entire debate in the verse right now. So, Chikau, yeah. So are those technically lizards? Possibly, because they lay eggs. I can't imagine they're mammals. Then again, thank you, Australia, for the abomination known as the platypus, which I think is technically a mammal, but it lays eggs. Yes, those are Xi'an native animals. Here's the problem with the Xi'an native animals. The Xi'an nuked their own fucking planet, so I don't know if those animals still exist anymore. They didn't nuke their own planet. They tried to use a terraformation beam as a assassination target, and they failed. And ended up terraforming their whole planet. And so they were led by their like one warlord, one leader, essentially one king stepped up and was like, "You're all going to listen to me now, and we're just going to get the fuck out of here because we can't save our home planet." And so that was the beginnings of the Xi'an Empire. How? Because the Xi'an used to be incredibly fucking warlike. They used to kill each other all the time. It's their great shame. In fact, I think they call it like the dark time. It's effectively their dark ages. And they managed to save their planet from a planetary catastrophe by working together and building a terraformation system that would re-terraform the planet and undo damage that they'd been doing to their environment. The problem is a couple of the families, a couple of the major leaders got a hold of this system and then tried to assassinate and another family and destroy an entire like nation with this beam. And it went fucking rampant and destroyed the entire planet because it went out of control. So this is before the time they couldn't find the rightful heir to society. This is what caused them to expand. Their homeworld is lost. They don't have a homeworld anymore. It exists, but no one can live there. Then the Xi'an, that's why the Xi'an have coalesced around an emperor, because the emperor was the one who just slapped them and was like, "You're following me now. Shut the fuck up." And knowing the Xi'an is probably a woman. Just get the fuck behind me, fucking idiots. We gotta go find a better place now because these fucking knuckleheads decided they were going to try to kill this other guy. And thus has started the Xi'an Empire. No one can live there. I mean, you could live there. It's just very dangerous. And if humans ever found out where the Xi'an's home planet was, the Xi'an might actually go to war with humanity. They are that embarrassed about it. Just terraform back to normal. I think they completely fucked it. Like it's done. It's like been put in the microwave and turned on high for, a day. The Xi'an need an elite assassin group named after Renaissance artists from Earth. Yeah, Motokyai, which is where we get the Santokyai, is essentially it'd be like calling a human ship like the Falcon. It's like the Hawk. Santokyai is like the Hawk. Cue your Kirby enthusiasm theme. Now it's more like two guys get together, you know, two families get together. We're going to kill this family and just erase their nation from the face of Xi. What could go wrong? And then cue this Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The gang de-terraforms the planet. Except the Xi'an Hawk. Well, no, so this isn't a Xi'an, this is a Terran. So this is from Terra, which is a human planet. Human colonized. We actually have concept sketches of the Xi'an animals. So. Yeah, no, MGL is right. We almost did... if we tried to ally ourselves with the Cathok, the Xi'an would instantly declare war on us. We actually sent an emissary to try to go contact the Cathok, and they were caught almost instantly and held basically as a spy. And we totally sent them, by the way. But it wasn't the emperor, or the imperator who sent them. It was some senators who had sent them. And the Xi'an were basically like, no, he's a spy. And they're like, no, we really want him back. And they're like, no, we're going to kill him. Very, very open, friendly smile. It's like, we're going to murder him publicly on television as a spy. Because he's a spy. You broke our sovereignty. You're lucky we're not going to declare war on you. And the centralists were like, yes, let's fucking fight these aliens. And everyone else is like, calm the fuck down, all right? No one wants to start World War or whatever. This massive fucking war, which is going to kill everybody. Oh yeah, the blind oni crabs, the xyphalopods. Yeah, they are invasive as fuck. They're actually from Lear. But they literally eat garbage and they stow away on ships and are everywhere. And because Hurston gives zero fucks about its environment, they just let these things roam. Also, I'm very excited for the Santokyai, namely because it seems like the perfect way for a way I fight. Also, we're gonna use the Death Star to kill an entire house. What could possibly go wrong? So space rats are crabs? Possibly. Or is the Hades tail just to cover up the Xi'an embarrassment? It could be. Though we do have, on Hades, at Hades, we do have statues of the Hadesians, and they do not look anything like any species we've encountered. I love the Cartual, so I think the Santokyai is going to be awesome. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool too. Show them the Jump Beast. The Jump Beast. Are you talking about the Boreal Stalker? What's the background behind you? Oh, yeah, it's a pirate. So this was done by Desolus Art. So Desolus came to me and said, hey, Paul, love your stuff. I've known Desolus. He's been watching the show forever. He's been watching me forever. He was doing some practice and decided to try to do a background for office hours. And so this is actually Pyro. So this is a original art piece done by Desolus for me for that. In fact, if you look here, you'll see like it says, Lord of Lore and like Smuggling 101 and Galactic Historian on the book sides things back there. He actually based this whole scene off of concept art that was from CIG for Pyro. So this is supposed to be Pyro. There are no images of the Hadesians. We just have the description. They have an upper body torso with 2 grasping arms with grasping hands, a head similar to other species, but they don't really have legs. They have like a thorax, like a bulbous bottom half with anywhere between 6 to 8 legs, tiny or like almost insect legs underneath them. So, can we see? Oh yeah. I'll show you the baby Xi'an. The baby Xi'an is great. Adult, teenager, child. He's adorable. Baby Yoda ain't got shit on Baby Xi'an. We're gonna find some other good concept art. This is a pretty good one here. This is all Xi'an concept art. I think these are humans here, and those are Xi'an. The Imperator. Family life. I love this one. This is great meme material. You chunk. Santok Yai. Or Cartual. This is House A Apoa, I believe, is the concept art for this. These are some of the older concepts that kind of changed since then. Yeah. More like chunk to all. Do Xi'an lay eggs? No. The Hadesians are like a cross between a centaur and a spider. Yeah, they're like a Driders. Race of Space Ninja Turtles. Yeah, that's what they look like. Question. What do you think about smuggling rep being morally good, especially in Pyro, like smuggling slaves to safety, etc., or stealing weapons from gangs? I think smuggling is morally neutral. And the key thing to remember about Star Citizen is that there is no good, bad. There's no paragon or renegade path in Star Citizen. It's every faction is going to have its own desires, its own goals, its own hopes and aspirations. Some of them are psychopaths, sure, but you know, for instance, smuggling in something like a what is it? Smuggling something like a like people out of Hurston. I can't see that being a bad thing, especially if people got suckered into a lifetime contract, or smuggling stuff to Hurston to a repressed group of people. That's not a bad idea either. Charging money, yeah, maybe, but you know, goods rendered, services rendered, goods, you know, that sort of thing. But yeah. Wait, we'll be actually able to do human and other trafficking? That actually sounds fun. I think CIG is going to try to... They're going to try to walk a tightrope with that, a fine line with that. Because they don't want to be like this game that's like promoting really horrible shit that actually happens today. But they don't want to shy away from something simply because it's controversial, especially if it's a major plot point. They've done that a lot with the lore. Like, for instance, the Banu went from having effectively just pure slavery to having more of a indentured servitude, but it's effectively slavery, but it's not really slavery. It's indentured servitude. And it's complicated because of their culture, but it's not disrespectful. And I don't think. I think it paints it in a way that makes sense that would exist in something like Star Citizen's universe, that is believable, but is also not going to like sugarcoat it. It's not going to make it look good. Will we ever get a gift of 400 million mark? I have no fucking idea. Elite Dangerous is Imperial slaves, but you never see them in your hold. Exactly. Like, I don't like Star Citizen. The problem with Star Citizen is that if you're going to be smuggling those sorts of individuals, you'll probably be smuggling them in cryo and you'll see them. You just described the coyote moving people out of Texas into Mexico. Yeah. That's a moral question for individuals, not for not for, you know, as a whole. Some people think those people are heroes. Some people think they're taking advantage of people. Some people think they're just evil. Depends on who you talk to. That's just kind of how Star Citizen's lore is built, which is why I think it works better than most people think. It's designed to be integrated into the story. The story is designed to be integrated into the universe and into the gameplay as much as possible, you know, admirably. Sometimes gameplay has to trump lore, so lore has to come up with reasons why that gameplay exists. But at the same time, they don't want to create a universe where it's going to pound you with a message. What they're creating is a universe that is designed to be where you can see the logic and the reason behind joining specific groups, even if they're not necessarily good groups. You at least see why someone is being an evil fuck. Not because they just like being evil, but because there's a rational reason why people would follow this guy or gal or whoever. Then I'm more like the Ferengi now. Ferengi, if the Ferengi were just absolutely adorable. The Banu are so helpful and eager at everything they do. They just never say no. Like if they think something's cool, they'll just fucking do it because it's cool. Like the Ferengi are all about profit motive. The Banu are more about uniqueness, about individuality, and about being able to stand out from the crowd. So, like, whereas a Ferengi would look at a piece of art as an investment, a Banu would look at a piece of art as a unique object that has value because it's unique. The value can be exchanged with monetarily, but it's also very important that you have unique things that make you stand out from the rest of the Banu. They aspire to being very good at whatever they do, and when they see someone who's very skilled at their craft, like a Sadaball player, they can respect that craft. I guess kind of like Nog from DS9. Yeah. Do you think the crime stat should be assigned to ships as well as people? Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I think crime stat should be dead. Fuck crime stat. Crime stat should be gone. Crime stat should be replaced with reputation. And the reputation will determine the actions. So with legal response, having negative reputation with, say, the UAE means you're going to get apprehended and thrown in jail. I'm not saying do away with the crime stat system like the way crime works right now in game at all. I just don't like the crime stat system of having like 5 different levels and all that kind of stuff. I think it should be based off of whatever you did, like actual laws are, but that's the idea. Ships are going to get rep. They don't have rep right now, but they eventually will. That's why CIG did that weird thing where they said every ship needs to be uniquely named. YOLO Banu. Hippies. Kind of. If hippies were incredibly capitalistic in everything they did. More like yippies, I guess. But it really was all subject to man-made concepts. Had the angry Austrian mustache artist won, the allies would have been evil ones. Reality's a lot grayer. I can appreciate for portraying that. So not hippies, no. Or is fascism, yeah. So if you claim a ship, will the reputation of that ship reset? Possibly, or at least go down. It's important to remember that there's no such thing as a reset button for reputation in Star Citizen. Everything is degrees. So if you lose a ship, you're going to get a new ship back, but it's going to have the same name. So it'll have some of the reputation, though it probably won't have all the reputation because that reputation will probably be lost a little bit because it was destroyed. So this is like the replacement. And if you decide to change the name because you get a new replacement, then that reputation will go down as well because it may be recognizable because you're part of it, but it's a different name, so it doesn't have the same kind of gravitas with it. I just thought the crime stat system was accurate. Sometimes I get a crime stat for things I couldn't help. Not my fault that an idiot NPC ran into the pad as I was landing. I think a lot of that is bugs, but I also think that Star Citizen's always going to have edge cases where the law system just doesn't make a lot of sense because there's no nuance in computers. Computers don't understand nuance. What about a global rep? If a ship is becoming the meta, it's renowned for its set activity starts to proceed as a model of a ship. Yeah, they could do that. I don't think they will, but my MSR is the Lusty Argonian Maid. That's fucking hilarious, and I love it. The Lusty Argonian Maid MSR. I mean, my MSR is named the King of Prussia, so spice must flow. Yeah. Sometimes you just lose. I think the devs are okay with that game, with a game that does that sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's gonna suck. Stuff's just gonna happen. Yeah, right now CIG specifies a different name for each ship, and that's going to be tough. Yep. I don't like the idea, but because it makes more sense to be able to have like the registry number. Because yeah, you could have 1,000 different enterprises, but you know, as I always say, everyone knows that the registry numbers of the ships matter more matter as much as the ship's name in the Star Trek universe. 1701D. I wish they could do more naming. I wish they fixed that, but I understand why they don't, because it's not priority yet. So the ships are going to get a certain rep, the same way old NFS games did with specific cars getting heat from your crimes, eventually getting to the point where the police would chase your car down sight upon recognizing it. Yeah, effectively. Which could also be good things. Like if you are flying if I become a famous, smuggler, it could be a bad thing. If I become a famous trader, well known for my philanthropical work, delivering starving orphan children with cakes and medical supplies and the little Timmy's a new heart for little Timmy, then the King of Prussia will become a well-known and regarded ship throughout the universe because it's got that reputation of doing good things. Kind of like right now, a micro example of that is when you sign up for Xenothreat, if you have reputation already with Dooley and CDF, Dooley will say something that's like, I'm glad to have some veterans on board. We really need some people with experience to help us with this right now. That's the kind of thing. Like if you have a high enough reputation with a certain organization, if your ship does, it's like, oh, I recognize the name of the ship. You do good work, kind of thing. Named Light Blue. I can't wait for a Drake Cutlass Blue to be named Light Blue Special. I want to fix my ship up like Chewie and Han. I'm hoping that hand salvage repair gives that feel. I think to a degree. I don't think it'll be as good as you think, but it's not going to ever be able to like hodgepodge an MSR into something that's uniquely shaped. But I think you get some hand feel to it, I guess you could say. King of Prussia going to be like Sultan Saladin. Mercury Bar Runner. Can I call my character Gronald's Hope? If you want to get shot on sight. by the advocacy. I'm overjoyed that the name Free Hugs for my Reclaimer. That's actually pretty good. I've always said that the argument against for unique names is never really good. Because the only argument I've heard for unique names is CIG wants reputation to follow with ships, which again is countered by the fact that every ship has its own unique serial number. And that like it forces players to be creative. It's like players will be creative even if they aren't forced to. People will come up with interesting names because they want to. Punishing people because of their quote-unquote lack of creativity is shitty. We want flyable pieces of junk, not ships you have to hit the engine with a wrench to fly. Like King of Prussia actually came from an actual person named the King of Prussia, who was a famous smuggler during the time of the heyday of smuggling in England. For those of you who don't know, there was a time period in England which was called mercantilism, where mercantilism was king. Not just England, it was all over Europe. The concept of mercantilism at its core is effectively everything that you cannot trade with other countries. All trade is to be done inside your own country, and you're not to engage in trade with foreign powers, especially foreign powers which are not looked upon kindly by the king, which was something that Adam Smith, when he wrote Wealth of Nations, was pissed about. And it's something the Americans did not like either and just ignored. Hello, John Hancock, smuggler. So smugglers were a very different breed during that time period. They were less, Han Solo and more startup entrepreneur. People would take ships, sail to like France, buys goods or trade for goods from France, sail back to England, and then sell those goods in the markets. Technically, they were illegal. So. Hey, OG Lockpin. Thank you so much for gifting that sub to Gravity Kalia. It's a beers in there. Oh yes, my eighth Idris name, which will be Kid's Inheritance, is looking to be really disreputable in the captain's hands. My future grandson. Less Han Solo, more Jack Sparrow, to a degree. So like there's a place called Prussian Cove, I think, on the south side of England, maybe east side of England, east coast of England, which was famous because the ship, I think it was even called the Prussia, or maybe the King of Prussia, would sail in and out of and drop off their goods and then bring those goods to market and sell them, underhanded, like, so the authorities didn't know, but like everyone knew because no one wanted to it's like, why screw the good thing if you're going to get nice French wine? So that they named it after the smuggler, who was known as the King of Prussia. I know a quick way because PvP. Just name your ship the Elite was better. PvP isn't too much of an argument though, because again, you can always know serial numbers. If everyone's ship has the same name, you can just, FO. I hope that friend or foe kind of like systems are a little bit better by that time, anyways, by the future, so we can designate targets as like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or whatever. So who has Queen Anne's Revenge? That's a good question. But that potential kidnapping gameplay loop. Ugh. Just imagine how hard it will be to give unique names to all those Argo cargoes. That's the thing. It's like, I think the naming situation, my thought has always come down to, you have a situation where players are going to have their auroras, and they're going to want to name their aurora something special because new players want to have some sort of sentimentality, especially if they know their ship is going to be, like they can name their ship. They want to name their ship what they want to name it. And so if they sit down and they try to name their aurora what they want and it's taken, it's going to like reduce the connection that they have to that ship. Because, you know, let's think about it. If there are, let's just say 1 million people in Star Citizen right now, right? It's more than that, but there's 1 million people with packages. Let's just say 70% of those packages have auroras in them. That's 700,000 people have an aurora. What's the odds with using the limited amount of characters that they have, because it's only specific characters in a specific range, that you will have a name which is unique or important to you, the name of your wife or your husband, or a place where it was very important to you. Maybe a little common, but, you know, Rose, you know, or Charla, or David, you know, or Palm Beach, whatever. Places that are, or people or things that are important to you that you want to put in there, or something that's historical or something cool. The odds are very high that those things are going to be taken. And if the purpose of names is to, from a gameplay perspective, to give people a sense of ownership of that ship, to give them something that they want to hold on to because it has some value to them emotionally, then saying you can't have a name of this ship because somebody else took it is bullshit. That's just it. It does not serve the purpose for gameplay. It may serve the purpose for your own ideas of what gameplay should be, but if the purpose of it is effectively trying to promote attachment, which is what they've said, then it fails flat out when you deal with those common ships. I thought they said that only reserved names could be unique. The meek ones, your name you could duplicate. No, all ships are unique to the hull. So if you have, again, use Rose. If you have an Aurora, you can name it You can name it Rose. But no other Auroras can be named Rose. But if you have a 300, that could be named Rose because it's a completely different hull. So you could have one of every ship and name it the same name if you wanted to, but then no one else could use that name for any of the hulls. So it's based off of the hull variants, not some sort of unique special thing. I love Godzuki. Gonna name my ship Godzuki. Not enough people have watched the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon to know what I reference and use it. I remember Godzuki. Godzuki is a famous name amongst people who are aficionados of kaiju. Yeah, it's not a pirate. It was the UN or the Martians were like, yeah, if I find a name of some after some lost love on you know, Titan, you know, or something like that, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to shoot somebody. I'm start shooting people for lack of creativity, was the quote. Godzuki, son of Godzilla. Yeah, you run into those problems a lot with MMOs with taking names, yeah. I like names, I like simple names. The other ship, or not primary, helps in group PvP. Well, I think by the time we get to situations with group PvP, it probably would do well to have markers, because I don't think you'll even see names of players or ships when you see a ship. You will only see its classification until you start doing scans on it, and then it'll pull up the name of the ship under the scans. But by that point, I hope at least we'll see some sort of customizable friend or foe system where you can start designated targets as friend or foe based off of your own clarification, your own decision, rather than being arbitrary. Naming my Corsair RSI Aurora. Nephew of Godzilla. Okay. I thought it was the son of Godzilla, but yeah. It's the same concept. Good story about that Expanse quote. It's one of those quotes that's actually in the book that it's based off of. It's in the book and in the TV series. UNSC and Amberclad. Yeah. I think they messed up names. Why would the Blackbeard give a damn if Queen Anne's Revenge was already a registered name in the UEE? Yeah. Would that be something the running battle command in a fleet battle could do? Probably. Like, in a perfect universe, the reason why you have those hollow globes and these ships which are designed to do like combat operations, like the Tracker or the, to a lesser degree, the Terrapin or the Carrack or the Javelin, you would have probably some sort of CIC, command and control, where you have someone who is tracking targets from linked scanners from all over the fleet and then designating targets as friend or foe on the fly, which would then redesignate those targets for the players that they're in groups with. That sounds complicated, and it probably is, and I don't know exactly how they'll do it, but I feel like what they'd have to do is completely decouple the sensor system from this concept of having red, gray, and green and blue kind of arbitrary. It's going to have to be manual, which will suck. It will suck because a lot of players won't know how to do that. Forget insurance, please don't kill me. Forgot insurance, please don't kill me. Call the ship, never mind. Everyone concentrates to try fire on, never mind. Defenestrated brick, I like the name. If we CCU a ship, do we get to rename it? Only if it's a renameable ship. So if you CCU into a ship that has nameable options, yes. I don't have alerts on just because I haven't migrated them over yet to the new software. I remember a German ship tried to camouflage itself as an allied ship right down to the name, then met the ship they cloned and got shot down by them. Yeah. All right, so we've been streaming for 2 hours. We've already talked a little bit about the new professions and stuff like that. What was you going to talk about with the ISE? Watch the ISE; it's great. There's let me pull that up actually. Something that's really cool.
Welcome to an all-sprint. Members of the environment team also took a sprint to...
So, there's a couple things to remember here. One, the reason why they're doing hangars on these rings, interior and exterior of these rings, is not because of necessarily increasing player caps. It's part of the reason. But they want to get rid of pads. They've said that very many times. They want to get rid of pads for landing and taking off. So there's no longer going to be open air pads anywhere except for maybe outposts. Everything will be hangars of some kind because they want to move towards that.
Explore something on our backlog, namely the addition of small and medium-sized hangars to the ring structure of some space stations.
Yes.
It's a small touch, but these small touches, they add up to make for a more dynamic landing and takeoff experience as players travel across the Star Citizen persistent universe. Let's switch gears here.
I mean, it's not because people can't behave. It's because of how they want to move everything from pad based to hangar based, because they want to basically spawn in ships in hiding, as well as they want to do things like persistent hangars. They want to be able to do things like repair and refuel and rearm, which is hard to do in vacuum. So it's those sorts of things. Pad armors has something to do with it, but they always plan on moving away from that.
From bounty hunting to mining, from emergency.
We already kind of went over that, which is
now
these are all explorations of HUDs. These are not final professions, and they're all types of professions that you can do, which will be linked to a specific group or individual that you're working for. So you'll know right away that if you're working with, say, Tisa Pacheco, that she gives you assassination missions. Maybe she'll also give you medicine missions or hired muscle missions, but those will be separate reputations with her than just, the ones you had before. They went through some lighting, which is cool.
More performative and less resource intensive. That's our version of tastes great, less filling. They can also serve as terrific training opportunities to pass knowledge from older employees onto our newer hires as the company continues to grow. And speaking of growth, let's take a quick jaunt over to Orison and look at some new executive offices being developed. Now, these structures would be placed out on some of the raised landing platforms and provide a small, self-contained working area for Orison's bureaucracy, including an elevator down into the inner depths of platforms beneath. Of course, as for what adventures players may one day find in such an area, I'm not telling.
I'm telling. You need that again? You want to hear it again?
Welcome to the party, pal! Welcome to the party, pal!
Mostly because I don't know yet. I missed a meeting. Let's move on to some ship updates with this look at the continuing final art phase of the Vulture from Drake Interplanetary, where you can see all sorts of the smaller details you'd expect to see while unifying some of the scale reads where some items in the back half seem to feel a little more chunky compared to those in the front. It's pretty much just tightening things up and finishing them off now ahead of Salvage's intended release later this year. But before that happens, we've got the MISC Hull A barreling towards completion at the end of this quarter, where its final art pass continues adding all the various decals and decorations you might expect. But disclaimer here, those aren't the correct cargo boxes you're seeing here. The ship didn't just massively increase in size. It's just an artist having a little fun. They're also adding the trademark MISC turret underneath the cockpit and continuing to refine the expanding and contracting cargo grid for all your shipping needs.
So for those who are wondering, I think effectively when you have cargo on your ship will automatically extend. It may have fake boxes on it. It may have no boxes on it. But while you're flying with cargo on it, it'll have to be extended. But once you've sold your cargo, then you can collapse it and it'll be in more compact form. I think that's why they'll do it initially. And then when cargo refactor comes in, then it'll be more physicalized. So.
Now we'll be talking more about the Hull A later this quarter before its intended release in Alpha 3.
Later this year tells me everything is coming at the end of the year as 4.0. Not everything. Salvage is right now planned at coming on in 3.18. I don't think it's going to reach 3.18, but I think it's coming out in 3.19. I think if anything pushes, it'll be Salvage and persistent hangars and persistent hangars and the cargo refactor. I think both of those are more likely to move to the CitizenCon patch, which means that at the best option we have is 4.0 at the end of the year.
317.
Sriracha, maybe? No, Sriracha's there.
Of course, in merchantman news, the team continues white box phase, working through the entirety of the ship's interior in their efforts to fully map it out before going into gray box. You can see some of the main bridge here with the pilot seats up front, and the staircase to one of the primary turret rooms above. In White Box Phase, it's simply about making certain every space has a purpose, has the room for players to achieve that purpose, and to do so with the signature organic shapes that have come to identify the Banu thus far. Moving down to engineering, work continues making certain everything is symmetric. Now, last time we showed it, the stairs here were getting just a little too pinched, so they've opened up the area a bit, trying to make the whole room feel nice and grand within the confines of the current exterior. And then in the habitation area, you can see the beginnings of a Banu shrine that we'll explore more of in the future. And then here we have the interior turret area we mentioned before, which is shaping up to be quite different from any other turret you've experienced before, evoking that same sense.
Look me in the eye, chat. Look me in the eye. Is that not a fucking crab? That's above her. Look at that. This is a crab. That's a giant crab. The turrets on the Banu merchantmen are giant crabs. Later, Rivas. Crab turrets. Star Citizen Beta is not 4.0, but 4.0 is effectively where we're going to see the beginnings of the beta. I don't think it'll manage, I don't think they'll disrupt the whole industry, but I do think that they will piss off a lot of people who thought that wasn't possible. But they'll move the goalposts to something else. The game's not fun, or they'll never release X, or the game's still never going to come out, or whatever the fuck. That's just what happens. You know, whenever Star Citizen makes great advances or does some good things, you always see the people who are the loudest critique of the game end up moving on to something else to critique, which has nothing to do with, and just ignore the fact that they were wrong about this never coming out. So, yeah.
Sense of scale found throughout other areas.
Yeah, half defenders. They look kind of like that. Here's the best part.
It's a massive gun, and this massive space that houses it is actually open to the decks below it, which should make for quite the view before the turret forms down around you and sucks you up into it.
So instead of you climbing into the turret, you sit in the chair, and the turret descends upon you and then captures you and brings you back up. So you don't sit in the turret makes you sit in it.
Above the exterior.
Hey Steve, how you doing, buddy?
And then lets you pew to your heart's content. Yeah, merchantmen people, this one's going to be worth the wait. And finally, before we let you go, we started this week with Derelicts and a mention of those colonial.
It belongs in a museum, chat. It belongs in a museum.
Outposts. So let's combine the two and look at an initiative the teams undertook to explore outposts of days gone past with these concepts that you can see here. Now, one of the many projects the team at Turbulent is working on are the systemic tools that will one day bring these to life across the Pyro system. But as with all concepts,
so do you.
First explore the ideas further and set the goals for those systems to build towards. And just like the Reclaimer Derelicts from before, work has also begun creating the Derelict Outpost Zoo that will one day serve as the basis for hand-placed points of interest first, then the systemic implementation still currently in development. Now, whether it's brand new or 100 years old, each location is a new opportunity for story and gameplay to be found throughout the upcoming Pyro system.
This is something that Star Citizen incredibly lacks. And that's why I'm a big fan of having these pioneer outposts all over Hurston. Because I think that would add a shit ton of flavor to Hurston. It makes sense to be similar to what we see in Pyro. And, you know, it makes sense that Microtech is mostly empty. But you should have like shanty towns and things that have been disappeared and like fallen apart. Like abandoned facilities. There's something about ruins that make a place feel like it was lived in, like it exists, and being ambushed in ruins by like bandits. I don't know. Maybe I play too much post-apocalyptic games. It's just what I like.
So what did we learn this week? But we learn that the process of making new things old and then new again is well underway with the Reclaimer and Outpost Derelicts. That advanced traversal means additional opportunities for loot and storytelling in the outlaw space stations. That the Banu merchantman continues to make its impressive journey through Whitebox, and that the reputation system is on the cusp of expanding into a wide variety of legal and not so legal activities. Now, don't forget the Xenothreat is still underway, and Coromore is almost upon us with slick, iridescent paints, and hopefully no more Valentine's card contests that I have to explain to my mother. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all next week.
I want an end screen, Jared. What's the end screen? No end screen? Anything after the end? Okay.
Hey, meet me at our spot.
The Coromore ships are for single seat only. The irony. Yeah, well. At least people are getting pink skins, you know? Like, for the longest time, people have been asked, where's, like, the skins that are, like, interesting? Like, pink. Or, like, hot blue, you know? I actually did the paint. I just wish they had more red and blue version. I want to take that's button teal, like teal, yeah, stuff like this. It's super like neon colors. I love you, but this is a one-seater, baby. I think the whole concept of that is that she has the Nomad and he has the bike, so they go out together. Nox will get you killed. Kills. Hoverbike will get you laid. UT burnt orange. God. Which UT? Because they both have burnt orange. We talking hook 'em horns or go Vols? Which one? Starkit and Javelin Gib. Yep. Being able to have my Inferno in hot pink metallic almost makes me forgive CIG, forgive the CIG comments. All right. Now that it's been 2 hours, let's check in on that funding again. Let's see how that boycott's going. You know, the boycott to keep CIG, to show it how angry the community is. To keep them, to say that we want, what do they call it? What is it called? It's we want CIG to be accountable, to be held accountable. We want them to listen to us. Let's see how that's going. Oh. They've made $2 million in a week. $700,000 in the last day. For no reason whatsoever. No reason whatsoever. Let's take a look at that. Enhance. I'm not here to shame anybody. I'm not here to say that people don't have the right to boycott. Do what you feel is best. You do you. But maybe the loud community on Reddit isn't exactly the entire community. Maybe spectrum is not a great way of judging the actual engagement of the community or the temperature of the community. Oh, what's the thing with Modern Warfare 2? It says Modern Warfare 2 boycott, because they all wanted to have dedicated servers for Modern Warfare 2. But look how many people are playing Modern Warfare 2 in this group. Yeah. My point was never to be like, lol, CIG is right, you're wrong. My point in saying that, people called me arrogant and snobbish for saying that. And like an elitist, being a jackass. And I hate to point out that it's like, I'm not here to say you're wrong or that you aren't right to be angry. I'm just saying, I don't know if this actually matters, because the community never really follows through with any kind of anger. It's almost always individual, but never as a collective. I've heard time and again, like last week, I was hearing, this is different. This is not the same sort of anger about bullshit. People are really angry. Something's going to have to change. And then they make $2 million in a week. It's not a message of change. That's a message of do what you keep doing. They call all the OG backers and things like that too. I got banned from many communities just because I back a project I believe in. And again, historical precedent goes brr. And I never intend to be snobbish or dickish about these sorts of things. I never mean to like be a douchebag about these sorts of comments. It's more of a, I've been down this road so many times I'm numb. Like, it seems just like tantrums. Nothing ever significant happens. And as a result, there's no way to really change CIG by holding them accountable through their wallets. This never really happens. Good thumbnail. Something has changed. 2 million in a week. Yeah, that's the other thing that it's important to remember is that CIG is definitely focused on delivery. They're dead focused on what's going on. They made 6.8 million in January. God damn. I don't care if you say the gray market. I just don't trust the gray market like I trust the gray market more than I trust NFTs, but similar thing. They are accounting the money going into the wallet. Listen, if you're personally just done with CIG's bullshit and you stop buying, that's good. Good. Like, speak your truth. Do what you need to do. But don't pretend that it's some big movement of changing things, because I'm just numb to it. The problem is that the boycott and the people actually closed their wallets. New people would come in and pay, and everyone that boycotted would behind the terms of ship prices. I don't even think that's the issue. I think the real issue is that the people who are actually boycotting are a very small group of the actual community. I think the vast majority of the community, while might be a little upset about CIG's words, especially with them not taking any responsibility for their own actions in causing the problems with the roadmap, the reality is that most people just don't care. Most people just want the game. That's what I heard most out of it, because I actually went around out of my way to talk to people who were like super angry about this, and like all of them were like, effectively, if the game was out, I'd stop bitching. Like, it wasn't even like, they didn't even give a shit about more transparency, because they didn't even believe anything CIG said. Anyways, so it's just like the game is the only thing that matters. Do I think 4.0 comes out before Squadron? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think 4.0 comes out either at the end of this year or sometime early next year. I think CIG is pushing hard to make 4.0 come out this year, though. And I think secretly, because they're not 100% sure when 4.0 is coming out, that's probably one of the reasons why they went back to the... Jake's probably message me and like, Paul, no, I didn't. Shut the fuck up. You know why this happened. That's why I said it. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was also a thing where like they were effectively doing kind of obscure, like not letting us know the future, partially because they want to be damn sure when 4.0 hits, they can call it 4.0 and surprise everybody. True, but the game being out would be the end of responsibility and accountability, right? I mean, if people were trying to hold them accountable for releasing the game, then yeah. All right. We're going to do this. It's going to be a capsule. I have no idea if it's going to be good or not. But let me bring this up. I'm going to find the right places to start with.
I want to address this comment that came up on my channel. This is from the video I made about CIG removing items from the roadmap. There's a lot of confusion out there, and I understand.
Because I'm not a dick. This is the video. This is the video that got me to talk about this. I'm going to get to the point, and then I'm going to do the capsule for this. There's no raffle going on. I don't know why there was a raffle. Shouldn't be any raffle message. Oh, that's because I had the giveaway timer up and forgot to turn it off. I keep forgetting to do that on Thursdays. I need to remember to do it at the very end of the day. There's no raffle right now.
So I'll try help out here. So Sanctuary here is saying, I am not clear on what work is being done on Star Citizen. The last roadmap said all future core gameplay work is on Squadron 42, and the PU won't get any love until that is live. If someone can clarify, that'll be cool. That someone is me. I will attempt to do so. I assumed that meant features like Pyro and server meshing are currently on ice until Squadron 42 is live. That is incorrect. So let's break down what's happening here. He's not clear what's been done in Star Citizen. CIG basically said last week that they are removing certain things from the roadmap. So when you look at the CIG roadmap on the site, it's this. We see right now we're in 316. They would show out 317, 318, 319, 320, but the further out you go, the more tentative the items are, meaning they can be removed. And what CIG did was remove a whole bunch of stuff from 317 and then said, we probably don't want to show you what's coming out 318, 319 until we are more certain. Why? Because people get pissed. People get pissed, and also people don't understand what tentative means. Now, if you said you're putting something out and you remove it and it's something that you like, then it's upsetting. It really is. Let me pull up an old roadmap here and let's go full screen because
that peaking. Okay.
How's that? So, first of all, let's just appreciate what Star Citizen does as far as being transparent. If you want to know what a roadmap looks like in Star Citizen, this is a beautiful representation put together by Odysseus and Snackham. Thank you, gentlemen, for your work. And this is a roadmap. This is what we're used to. Do you guys know what a roadmap looks like outside of the CIG bubble? Do you even know what other game devs put out as a roadmap, okay? There's a bunch of hot...
These are fine, I'll tell you, but...
victims of their own, all right? It's in the map. There it is. Where is salvage now? Well, they moved it. So here's salvage for the nth time already. I don't need a webcam over the shoulder of the devs in the office so I can see what they do to patch. And when they move things around and when they said they're going to be working on Squadron 42, it doesn't mean they're ignoring the PU. In fact, I'm going to drop to the progress tracker here.
Yeah, this is what we're going to get to.
Which is, again, levels deep beyond what any other company has ever done for their players, or backers in this sense. This goes way beyond what any other game devs have ever done. But
if great financial numbers were a sign of community approval, EA would be the most beloved company on earth. Backers insist on keeping funding is the only way to measure consumer appreciation. It's the only way that you're going to be able to hold CIG accountable to change anything you dislike. You can be loud, you can make noise, and you can be personally upset. But if the numbers go up, it seems to indicate, especially with a company like Star Citizen, which is not EA, it's a silly comparison on that. The reality is that the backers are the funders. They're also the people who are funding the game. So if the backers are upset, if the players were upset and for EA, and it's also, I'd also say that players are often, the loud players are often not the actual players of the game. But if players are actually upset at the game, you don't see good sales. See Battlefield 2042, for example, or the Battlefront games and such. There is some financial repercussions to people being angry at them. That happens. Players just don't buy it. So if Star Citizen were to be pissing off its backers to a degree that people want to believe, then there should be some financial repercussions. There never has been. That's the reality. So, like, you can say what you like, but that's the reason why people use funding as a measurement, because it's an easy measurement tool to figure out how much players are interacting with CIG. Except for EA is a meme by hated. It's not really hated. It's just people like to hate on EA and Activision, but in general, most people don't bother. It's kind of like saying nobody likes. No, I can't even remember. Like, EA is actually a bad example in general because EA still makes a shit ton of money, and the only reason why they make a shit ton of money is because they make good business decisions, and the only way they make good business decisions is people buy your shit. So, like, and Star Citizen's even more in that situation. So it's like, it's the only way to really reflect that. And in fact, the players have even more of a control over CIG than EA, because EA has a board of directors and investors. Star Citizen has some investors and a board, but the majority of their money, the vast majority of their money, comes from backers. So backers have a huge sway on what happens in Star Citizen. All right, let's go back to this video. Sorry.
The problem is, again, It's not enough. It's not enough because I want to know what's happening. Let's scroll down to what's happening in Squadron 42, for example, here. Or deliverables. Here we go.
Yeah, he's from test.
All right. I want to know what's happening in Chapter 1. Now, it seems here that in the deliverables for Squadron 42 in Chapter 1... Oh, you know what? Let me just go back to this question. He just said that Squadron 42 is being worked on. The PU won't get any love. That is incorrect. Everything being worked on in the PU translate and moves into... Sorry, got them mixed up. Everything being worked on in Squadron 42 moves to the PU. Like the MFDs are being fixed up. Those MFD improvements are coming to the PU. Server meshing still being worked off. Gen 12 render still being worked off. Everything worked on in the PU benefits Squadron 42, and everything benefits Squadron 42 benefits the PU. It's meshed together. So when they're focusing the teams just on Squadron 42, it doesn't mean the PU is being left alone. Everything being worked on in Squadron 42 will in some way come over to the PU and benefit us there too.
Exactly. That's a good point to point out.
But let's take a look at this. All right. Chapter 1 done. 8 teams finished working on Chapter 1. And now when I say the 8 teams, you have the cinematics team. You have the facial animation team.
I'm getting to the right point. Hold on.
The gameplay story team, the props team, the Squadron 42 art team. You have the level design 1, 2, and 3 team. According to this, they finished everything last month. What I would like to see is some sort of announcement. I'd like to see some sort of congratulations to our teams who finished Chapter 1. Now, I'm not a manager.
I'm trying not to yell. Montoya, look at me. If you read the monthly reports, you would see this, because they've talked about it in the monthly reports. Multiple months for Squadron 42. I'm really trying not to yell right now. I don't want to burn your ears out, y'all. I really don't.
At CIG, but if me and my team and I have been working on Chapter 1 since the end of December 2020, and it's all we've been working on. Well, the teams move around, but finally Chapter 1 is done. How about some announcement? Say something. Let us know. Let us, the backers, congratulate.
It's on the monthly report.
Chapter 4 done, apparently. Just done recently. Chapter 5 done, apparently. Chapter 6 will be done end of March. Chapter 7 done. Chapter 8 done end of March. A lot of this seems to be finished or scheduled or targeting the end of March as the date which it is done. Chapter 15 done end of March. Chapter 18 still being worked on, almost done. Chapter 19 almost done. I would like to see where this is. I'd like to see an update on where this stands, because when Chapter 26, 4 teams working on Chapter 26, we have the level design team, which is done. The Squadron 42. Are they done? Are they on track for March?
I am.
If so, then what is happening with Squadron 42? Now, we know Chris Roberts went to Manchester. No doubt, if this is accurate and all these chapters are complete and everything is basically needs to be wrapped up, that's why he's there, to wrap this all up. I'd like to see some announcements. Now, the end of March is when most of this is scheduled. So some announcement from them to tell us what is happening here, that this is on track.
All right. This is where I'm going to do a quick recording. Get started on this one. So this is going to be a little bit of a weird, so just bear with me on this one.
Then what is happening with Squadron 42? Now, we know Chris or scheduled or targeting the end of March as the date which it is. Let us, the backers, congratulate them on it. Chapter 4 done, apparently. Just done recently.
Right,
Chapter 5 done, apparently. Chapter 6 will be done end of March. Chapter 7 done. Chapter 8 done end of March. A lot of this seems to be finished or scheduled.
I'm not angry. I'm just
the end of March
it's just
as
frustrated.
the date which it is done. Chapter 15 done end of March. Chapter 18 still being worked on, almost done. Chapter 19 almost done. I would like to see where the...
Okay, let's go back to this point right here. We'll start the recording here.
18 still being worked on, almost done. Chapter 19 almost done. I would like to see where this is. I'd like to see an update on where this stands, because when chapter 26, 4 teams working on chapter 26, we have the level design team, which is done. The Squadron 40. Are they done? Are they on track for March? If so, then what is happening with Squadron 42? Now, we know Chris Roberts went to Manchester. No doubt, if this is accurate and all these chapters are complete and everything is basically needs to be wrapped up, that's why he's there, to wrap this all up. I'd like to see some announcements. Now, the end of March is when most of this is scheduled. So some announcement from them to tell us what is happening here, that this is on track, that all the chapters are now complete. And so Xylo can tell us he's going to play through it again.
Montoya, they're not going to be complete in March. But let me explain. Welcome, everyone. This is a capsule. This is a kind of a little mini portion of my office hours. I've been watching this because this was something that inspired me to do this in the first place. But Office Hours is a live stream I do every Thursday, or almost every Thursday, at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or Central Time, where I do AMA, talk with people, and sometimes I do these little mini videos to get it out to you. So if you enjoy this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, comment down below with your own comments on this whole thing. And of course, feel free to join us on Thursday or watch the whole thing for the better context. So I pulled that video up. I'll leave it in the comments. Go watch the full video because Montoya is asking the question, will Squadron 42 be done by March? And I hate to keep saying this, but no, it's not. And yes, they've been talking about this, but nobody reads the Squadron 42 monthly reports. Here, let me show you. Pull it up for y'all. So I'm going to pull this up on my email because it was a email from Robert Space Industries. If you have the account, if you have the whole thing. There we go. You can see my Gmail here. It's a little wonky, but I'm going to kind of try to increase the size of this for you. You see this whole thing is from Squadron 42 monthly reports. It's sent everywhere. I can view it in browser. It's pretty neat. This whole thing is, this is Squadron 42's monthly report. This happens every month, and they talk about very specific aspects of Squadron 42's development, including, let's come down here and look at gameplay story. The gameplay story began in January following the turret work done last year, updating all story scenes to match newly defined metrics. It's definitely satisfying to see this work come to fruition and our characters to enter the turrets seamlessly. They also continued adding new bodies, faces, and audio to random NPC scenes. This is progressing well and will be expected to carry on throughout the first quarter of 2022. A new animator joined the team, so was spent onboarding and training, and planning was done for the rest of the year. You'll notice that they talk a lot about specific things. Narrative began the year by preparing for an upcoming motion capture session, along with the content that was meant to shot before the pandemic. It will be used to capture additional vignettes and procedural content for one of the campaign's set pieces, allowing for the first pass implementation of final content. The team also continued to work closely with design art to create scripts, placeholder recordings to help them judge whether scenes are working or intended once the scenes are signed off and their final captures to be scheduled. So, gives you some context. And here's why I know that Squadron 42 is not wrapping up in March, because that's not how sprints work. Now, I've been criticized by many people about not understanding how game development works or how Agile works. And I'll agree, admit I'm not a 100% expert on Agile. But the point being is I understand how CIG uses the system, which in this case is using sprints and Scrum and so on and so forth. And what we see on the monthly report, or not monthly report, on the progress tracker for March is simply that that's when the sprints end. There will be new sprints that come up later. And That's just the nature of how this works. That's how Star Citizen has been developed for a long. It's how many video games develop as a whole as well. They have these sprints that work on specific aspects. They go back and review those aspects if they need to and continue to work. Now, does that mean that Squadron 42 is never coming out? It's in some sort of quagmire? No, not at all. For instance, if you're reading the monthly reports, there's a month or two ago, we know that the very beginning of the game, the first sort of story arc, the first act of the game is completely finished and has got a complete cinematics pass with all the new stuff added. But you also note that there's some parts of the game which still lack basic functionality that we see in Star Citizen because it was built before that technology was implemented in the game. So, no, Squadron 42 is not wrapping up on March because in March they're going to have more sprints. And the reality is they do talk about this all the time. And I do encourage you to subscribe to the Squadron 42 newsletter. It comes out every month with these monthly reports. And it is very different from the Star Citizen monthly reports. They also, the week after the fact, they will post it on their website. So Wednesday of this week, I think it should have been posted as well for everybody else to enjoy. So if you're really interested in Star Citizen or Squadron 42 development, following along on the progress tracker is great, but also make sure that you're reading the monthly report. Hopefully that helps you clear up some of these issues with Squadron. There are still lots of communications issues that CIG has, but this is one of those avenues that a lot of people don't seem to know exists. So hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this kind of conversation, you want to ask your own questions, have your own 2 cents, make sure you put it down in the comment below. But of course, come join us live. I'm always here to do these AMAs on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central Time, and sometimes, some other times every so often. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. There you go. What's going on in the chat? Oh, I've been told that I don't know how Star software development works. So, Ronan. So, I was trying to explain in an info runners thing that like the way that CIG develops the game. I get that tone was like, oh, this is just how software development works. But what I was trying to say is that the way that CIG develops, it doesn't work for what they need. Which, like it or not, that's the reality. I'm not ending. No. I was just doing a recording piece. I'm not ending it now, Andre. That was just a recording for Twitch or for YouTube later. I'm really good at these one-take things. I mean, I'm not perfect. I just do my best. In my lore, while I heard that we boycott Squad 42 doesn't drop in March. Yeah, Agile is a methodology, and if I remember correctly about how Agile works, the idea is that you can pivot pretty easily and tackle specific topics as you go along. So, like, one topic is you can like dogpile on one thing and then move to the next. I could be wrong about that. Because again, I'm not an expert in Agile. All I know is that CIG uses sprints and Scrum to a degree. And I've heard them use the term Agile, but I know how they function. They function by doing sprints on certain topics that often have upstream and downstream classifications. So an upstream team will do a sprint on a certain tool, and that tool is finished. It'll be passed down to a downstream team who will then use that tool to build out an asset and then release it to the backers. Sometimes that tool is introduced into the game, and then the downstream team works on it as well. But that's how they seem to develop. And each sprint is one section of the game or a portion. Sometimes it can be a tiny little bit of the game. And so some sprints are 2 weeks, some sprints are 2 months. Depends on what they are. Now, the problem with that development style for Star Citizen is if an upstream team fucks up, or Chris, or let's not use Chris is too Chris Roberts. Joanne, who works on an upstream team for something, her mom gets sick, and so she has to go take care of her mom for a month. But nobody can do what Joanne does because she's the only person who does it well. So they have to wait for a month for that upstream team to get fixed. And that upstream team can pivot and work on something else because nature of what they have. But that means that the downstream team that was working on what Joanne was working on just won't be able to work on that. So the thing that they were planning on working on in the fall is just fucked. And it doesn't work very well with these sorts of projects. So as a result, you get a situation where something that's promised to come out doesn't come out, and people lose their minds, but it may be because of very mundane things. People die, people have kids, people need breaks, you know? So the bus problem, exactly. So should we clone Joanne? Have to reclone Jake. NPCs will connect to a server exactly like players. Servers can't handle NPCs and players right now. Yeah, there's a whole back end. That's why they need the persistence before they can do dynamic. We can do quanta and they can do server meshing, because the back end, like Star Citizen has like 7 different services layered on top of each other. And there's one service that connects all of them, which is the replication layer, if I remember correctly, which is the thing that will basically duplicate all that information and send it to all of the various services that exist in the back end. So the quanta system, the AI subsumption system, there's like a cross between, I forgot what they said, it's like there's the quanta, there's the subsumption AI, which is like in front of you, and then there's like a mix between them, like a virtual AI, I think was what they called it. So like quanta is just data. Virtual AI actually exists on a server, but it's on a separate server. It's like the game is playing itself. And once that virtual AI would come into contact with a player, it becomes a subsumption AI. So it transitions from being a back-end layer to the gameplay layer. And the thing that keeps this all together is the replication layer, which is the persistence layer, which is why pretty much everything is relying on persistence. People are looking at server meshing as the holy grail of everything. It's actually persistence. Persistence is the thing that's like the trunk of the tree. It's just the pretty leaves are the quanta and the branches of the quanta and the pretty leaves are the server meshing. You get to see the server meshing. You don't get to see the persistence. Real example, my coworker went to leave for 2 weeks, did not commit his stuff. I had to rewrite his systems plus the stuff I needed to do required for his stuff. It has holes. Yeah. The ideal environment is never to be having to replace with Joanne in software development. That's the ideal, though. The problem, Renovate, is at its core, Star Citizen or video games have an issue where certain jobs in the video game industry are very rare. Like network engineers are very hard to come by in video games because they can make a fuck ton more money doing any other software job, and the video games industry sucks. So there are certain jobs which are difficult to find and to hire for. CIG is trying to hire for those positions. If you look at their website, they've got 130 positions or something like that open. Well, they're trying to fill those positions, but they may only have one Joanne. So then what are the roots? OCS, server-side OCS, 64-bit floating precision. We have the roots. The roots have been done. Yeah, this explains why CIG required all of Crytek's workforce, because they needed people. Frankfurt or Manchester, if you had to choose? Probably Manchester, just because I speak English and I don't speak German. Though I'd prefer Frankfurt because I think Germany is probably a better place to live. And Joanne's just an example of cascade failure, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what often people forget about with game development, is that game development is not software development. They're two different things. Software development is a lot easier. Not that it's easy. Software development in no way, shape, or form is easy. But it's also a lot more streamlined. Systems work, procedures work. It's much more scientific. To make a website or to make an app isn't breaking new ground. Even if you're developing a brand new app with new applications, you can probably find some pieces of software or have developed something similar if you're a long-term engineer to get something to work. But video games is a lot less like science and a lot more like art. Because you can build a video game that works, but if it's shit, then it's not fun. And if it's not fun, then you have to change it. So there's a lot of aspects of software, of video game development, which have more to do with feeling and intuition and just trial and error. You gotta head out, MGL. Have a good night, man. Most Germans speak better English than us, I'm sure. But I wouldn't want to live in a country that I didn't speak the language of. If I was going to live in Germany, I'd want to learn German. While it's true it's hard to find a superstar with your netcode, it's often less necessary than, for example, hiring a few juniors and mid-level engineers and putting them into the team to learn code that exists and code that needs to exist. And I think they've done that as well. But the nature of the beast, that those people are going to have to learn code and fix those things up, because I know they've done that as well. But there's a reason why they're always hiring new people. People either leave because they find better job opportunities, because especially if you're a mid-level or low-level engineer and you learn how to code something as complex as Star Citizen, there may be people who snap you up pretty quickly for those sort of skills, which will pay you more money, because CIG isn't able to pay a ton of money. Do we retrieve Jax? No, Jax is going to come back, I think. Video game development isn't fun. No, video game development isn't fun, but you have to make video games fun. Such as the what do we call it? Such as the paradox of game development. She has some powerful job security, so those other positions remain unfilled. On the other hand, she's overworked far easily. The entire job falls out, and rather than positions remain unfilled. Yeah. I enjoyed game development when I was in the industry. I've heard mixed bags, but generally speaking, the pay sucks ass and the hours suck ass for what you do. But there's also people who are built differently. It sounds like a cop-out, but there are people who would just like video games because they like the creativity to explore, or the artistic exploration, or just building something that they think other people will play and enjoy as a form of recreation. It's a different high, as it were. As somebody who creates content, when I see a video that I make go shoot it straight up, and it's something I put a lot of time and effort into, I go, fuck yeah. You know, the dopamine in my brain goes up because I know I did that. I built that and people are enjoying it. So this is not a model like that, though. There's a lot of microservices involved with it. When you look at it from each team owns a piece perspective, it doesn't sound as complicated as people put it out. No, it is a tons of different pieces, but software dev as a hobby is fun. A job is a black hole for your soul. Yeah. Nomad is the Odyssey as the Pisces is the Carrick. Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Not Pisces, though, or not maybe, nah. Yeah, I guess you could say that. Software Dev is much more straightforward, as your code just needs to interface with another API to process data back and forth. In games, you need to wait for games. In games, you need to wait for animations, particles, and sounds. So that's a little bit, yeah. Yeah, that's Steve is right. At certain those microservices do have to communicate with each other, and they do have to end up communicating that out with the game, which is a more complicated task to make them all talk to each other than you think. I'm tired of being dumped on a station without an envirosuit after release. Did you not get an environmental suit after release? Talking about prison, or do we supposed to have landing pad and Klesher to leave Aberdeen after crime stats cleared? I think there's eventually going to be an NPC bus that takes you out. I think that's the idea. Yeah, Renovate, but it's also important to remember the soft factors. Like, code is a hard factor. It's something that everyone can measure and you can interact with and you can monkey with. But soft factors like teams interacting with one another and bugs that pop up and individuals having to leave or get sick or change functionality, all those things kind of happen as well. Taxi missions T0, I hope, but that's taxi missions is going to be players shuttling NPCs from station to station. It's probably more like a T1. It's a general case, since in games you're doing chunks of work for each frame, and processes are generally more drawn out. It leads to more edge cases and weirdness, especially in networked product. Yeah. Why can't we just spawn in a hospital on our flight suit? Because CIG is obsessed with immersion. You should be able to, you should be able to have a suit. You should really have everything. If you, well, that's the thing. I think the way it's supposed to work is if you die, all of your stuff that you had when you died comes back to you after you get released from prison. I'm on chat with phone and watching you on TV. Okay, I'm sorry, you Renovate. It's given that teams needs to over communicate, especially now in COVID, to get shit working together. Yeah. I didn't mean to like bring up the whole topic. It was more it was more about how to put this. It's more about it was more me trying to clarify something that I said in an Info Runners video that people seem to assume that like I don't know anything and everything I said was wrong. It was like I didn't say anything wrong about Star Citizen's development. I just didn't say what was perfect according to expert levels in Scrum and Agile who I got lectured to because we were wrong about what we were saying. And I was like, I mean, I'm not wrong about what CIG is doing. If you think that that's wrong, that's CIG is doing it wrong. But I also, the question I have for people who are experts in these fields is, what would you do to fix the problem that CIG has? The bus problems that they have, where one person is the linchpin for some things, or one team gets moved around some. How would you fix that? Because I think the obvious answers for fixing those things would often end up being more expensive, or often something they may have tried to do and didn't work. Nobody knows anything about Star Citizen development. That's true. The only people who know about Star Citizen development are Star Citizen developers themselves. But I have been lucky enough to be close to Star Citizen developers to know a little bit of how they function. In terms of how they function with sprints, and I've asked enough people the kind of general concept of how they work. And CIG has not been silent about how they function. I agree with you, Fish. I think that what should happen in Star Citizen is you are able to decide a pre-purchased set that you can always have at all times, but you have to pay for it. Kind of like a automatic buy system. So that way you don't have to spend bullshit time going to pick up things from all over a system to be able to get a set of armor gear, which is stupid and should be common. It's the way that they spread armor and weapons out across the Stanton system is bullshit, and it shouldn't be like that. But at the same time, I understand why they haven't done it yet, because it's just they have to have other things in. And Pyro's not in yet. Thoughts on the whole Star Atlas thing? I don't know anything about Star Atlas other than it's involving NFTs, and it had a CG trailer. That's all I know. I'm not interested in any project that is using NFTs because I am very hesitant about any project using NFTs. It's a unproven system that is rife with scams. I don't think there's a way to truly fix it. Personally, I deal with the Agile issues as part of life as a developer, not Star Citizen, but other products. It has issues, but it's nice to be flexible. Yeah. And I think that's the key thing about Star Citizen that I understand about how I understand about their development works is if they use Agile the way I think they do, it's more about if something comes up, they can pivot. So just because Joanne is sick or has to go deal with her parents or has a kid or whatever, doesn't mean that the entire development stops. They can pivot and work on other things, which is why we see some things end up off the roadmap, but then suddenly something just shows up and people go, oh, they're throwing in bullshit because they think we're angry. It's like, no, it's because it's done. Because they pivoted and did that because they couldn't get the other thing done. But the problem is that CIG is terrible at communicating that. And they're also terrible at cutting things until very late, which they will never admit. Hey, thank you for that Prime sub there, Loken. Can we get a follow command for Loken? This year is the year of 40K games, Loken, and I need you with me through Darktide. We need to play Darktide together because I'm going to scream like a little boy in Glee as I use the lady with the giant hammer. When we are able to have persistent storage on ships, then the store locations may be a moot point. You know where I live, where I live, buddy. Also, Loken, check your mail. I sent the thing that I mean to send you, and I sent a little something else extra that I managed to get my hands on. So when you're, I just sent it. This Monday. So it's probably going to be like a couple of weeks, maybe a month. I wish you could stay. Have a good night there, Unknown Guardian. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, old school, you would have a giant design docs and then dev, then QA some sort of after QA thing, and then something goes wrong and everyone cries. Yeah. All I hope is you don't already have the thing I found. Apparently, Facebook's metaverse is going to use NFTs to produce digital scarcity. I can see that working for Facebook, but again, I don't think the metaverse is going to take off. I think it's a lot of effort for a very little payout. Yeah, I'm down for whatever. You just want to DM me, dude. I'm game for Star Citizen 40K or whatever. I mean, yeah, we'll do some Star Citizen stuff in the future for sure. I might snag you if I find out that you're online and it's like, hey, let's do some Mortal Online too. Because I still have to play that game, but Okay, we'll come first. Star Citizen beta or Elon Musk putting the man on Mars? That's a good question, actually. I'd say it's close. I would say maybe beta will probably hit before Elon Musk does Mars. Star Citizen's a lot closer to completion than many people realize. And then they can throw it in early if it's. Have a good night, Rona. Thanks for hanging out, man. I think it'll be big with some people, but nowhere near Meta wants it to be. The reality is that like workplaces function much better in person. Virtual reality is never going to be a substitute for actual reality until it's full dive VR, and we are still a ways away from full dive VR. So, like, it's never going to be, because like anyone who's worn, like I have an old Oculus, and wearing an Oculus for more than a couple of hours is tiring. A lot more tiring than sitting at a desk. Then they can just throw in whenever. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I think it was true. I think that was true, that CIG used to have this thing where like they were very, very, very much more of trying to please Chris. I think that they used to not have very good project managers. I used to shit on them all the time for having bad project managers. Because when Aaron Roberts, and I will say this, because you can go back in my archives and my records. You can, people who've been around here know long enough. When Aaron Roberts came out and said, this is a conservative estimate for this roadmap, I said he was lying to calm people down. And he was lying to calm people down. Consistently, the community was better at judging when something was coming out than CIG was. We knew what was going to make it and what wasn't based off of CIG's past actions. Consistently. They never surprised us. That shows that they had a bad project management. Now, facts, truth where, not truth, facts, what is it? Credit where credit is due. They've gotten better in the last couple of years. And from what I've heard from people I know who have interviewed with CIG, who were project managers, they hired project managers. And that is sped up development. This is why I don't have FPS space hybrid game and scale failure Star Citizen. The reason is the fact that the sheer amount of calculations to a dedicated game server needs to make a game like this, the feed and the information, the game giant, not fast enough to have reasonable frame rates and or no desync. Magic leap, bud. Hey, Black to Burn. My lord, it's as if project proper workflow helps productivity. Spoken from another person who is currently involved in the game dev process or learning game dev process. No bad news. We were just talking about something that I wanted to clear something up about some statements I made on InfoRunners. Well, Imperator of Lore, I shall bow out and disappear into the night. Have a good night there, Bigborn. May you receive night's blessings. Good day to you, sir. For those to work, you have to have a very specific type of amputation, which is only recently developed. What are you talking about? Longest spent on a VR rig, not Oculus, but 5 projectors, is about 14 hours. And yeah, VR needs work, but the application's getting bigger. Yeah, they're getting better. But I think meta is too soon. Meta is too soon of a process for it to kick off. I think when I'm much older, 20, 30 years from now, I think we'll start to see full VR applications work. And I'm going to be very honest with you, full VR applications are going to work because the porn industry is going to make it work. Because technology is driven by 2 things, money and sex. Every new bit of application, every new industrial application or new product technology that's been developed since the late 19th century till today has been pioneered by the sex industry. That's not a it's not like a hee funny joke. That's just like the reality. Like the VHS wouldn't exist without porn. Neither would DVDs. They totally said that 20 years ago. Well, the VR today is much better than VR was 20 years ago. And the military, yeah. Most are performing using 18th century technique. Oh, yeah, of in terms of like the blinder effect, that kind of thing. Cash wants sex, yeah. Hey, Vados. It's just the reality. I think if we're going to see true full dive VR, that's where the technology is going to come from. It'll be developed separately, but it'll only work because that industry takes it over. They pioneer it and make it cheap. As for me, I read Star Citizen development on Spectrum, so I know everything. What comes first, Star Citizen or interstellar travel? Obviously interstellar travel. Because Star Citizen's a scam knowledge, you should know this. I just realized, Aloha, you're making a C-Lab 2021 joke. It's no longer 2021, and I didn't make any C-Lab jokes last year. Fuck. Money, sex, war, the biggest drivers of technology. On a side note, hold fast in VR is a different experience. I've heard pretty much everything in VR is a completely different, new experience. Like even Minecraft in VR is a completely different experience. Skyrim is a different experience. Cheers, Paul. I didn't mean to bring up the tired topics of considering CIG's communication skills. I'm concerned with CIG ending up a line of communication in the roadmap. So I'm not so concerned that I'm boycotting. I get it, Papa. I get it. And I get communication issues, but I don't think CIG, like, let me put it this way. Jake is probably the closest we're going to get to a direct liaison from the community. Jake Bradley, Jake Acapella. I've known Jake for many years. He's a friend of mine. I've been to PAX South and PAX East with him multiple times. I've met his wife. I've pet his dog. He's been a friend that I met through Star Citizen, but I've known him for many years. He works for Star Citizen now, for CIG now, and he's the roadmap guy. He does all the roadmap stuff. And pretty much anything short of NDA, Jake will tell you exactly what's going on in Star Citizen anytime if you ask him. And he tries to do that with the roadmap as much as possible. I don't think anyone at CIG wants to hide information. I think what CIG is trying to do is mitigate giving so much information out that it hurts them unnecessarily. I think that's the key. Mitigate the salt, yeah. Am I a CIG developer and a gag of not to discuss to the public? No, I am not a CIG developer. I do have NDAs signed because I have done work with CIG on one occasion because CIG asked me to come in and film a segment on an old show they did where they were doing promotions about specific content creators. And I just happened to live in Austin. And so they were going to do this sort of segment through video. And I said, why don't I just come down to the office and film the segment there? So I had to sign an NDA for that. I've done multiple tours of CIG offices. I've been to the CIG Austin office enough times that I know the layout of it. But that's just like 3 or 4 times. Over the last 5 years I've been here in Austin. And I was here before, I was there before I moved to Austin as well. So by no means am I an CIG employee, but I know a lot of people there. Mostly because a lot of the people I know there used to be fans of Star Citizen and then got hired. So. Can't tell me how many times I had to disconnect the goddamn PC. What do you mean? A lot of people with pitchforks want to see him on the Pyre now. Like... Do I need to pull up the funding tracker again? Because I can. There's not a lot of people. It's a small group of people who are pissed. You remember what, Kenny? Oh, the segment that I was on? That was a reference to the UMNC ISNT training system that's more dog shit than dog shit. Oh, goddamn. Oh, for like the 3D, the virtual reality system. I agree 100%, but it looks sketch. I'm not a backer. I'm still a backer and will continue to be. But when we get less information, less communication with all the bullshit, bad publicity we see concerning the game, it's not a good look. The thing is we're not getting less communication. We're just getting less far out promises that they don't think they can guarantee will come in. That's the reality. Nothing fundamentally changes in Star Citizen development. Shit's still going to get delayed in some cases, but it's now what's going to happen is stuff that would get delayed because we have the information now, because delayed in, say, 2 weeks or a month or 2 months from now, we just won't see it. So there'll be less people hollering about the issues that got delayed. Nothing else has really changed. Hi, Kenny. I'm that guy who was there at the studio. Basically, just no goggles, uses the old Mark 1 eyeball. Yeah. I think I remember what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. Australian Army still uses 20-year-old battle simulator graphics that are worse than PlayStation 1. Vado, it's made by Bohemia. Bohemia makes a bunch of battle simulators for the military now. That are sim rounds, though. Yeah. The 3D driving simulator nauseating when the vehicle tilts. Yeah. Later, Papa. The reality is that no amount of CIG being open or more transparent will ever actually please anybody, even the public. The thing that matters more than anything else is completion of the game. The more the game comes out, the more the game becomes playable, the more it becomes more stable. People won't give a fuck about talking about it. They'll play the game. And we're already on that path. We just hope that the stuff that comes in works this year. Mob's gonna mob, yeah. I was going to say Bohemia makes what essentially Arma 2 for the Canadian military use. Source, my buddies in the Canadian military. Yeah, it's called something battle simulator or battle software. It's effectively Arma 2 or Arma 3, but on a stupid high scale that uses ridiculous amounts of supercomputer type stuff. The graphics are worse, but the amount of calculations it has is much higher. Call of Duty's a terrible simulator. Things get pushed back. It might be a few months. It might be a year. It might be 5 years, whatever. You've seen the roadmap. You make it eventually. Some cases even under a new name and bundled into several features. Yeah. The reality is that with Star Citizen's development is we're getting less and less just straight cut from the roadmap or pushed a year out or pushed 5 years out. It's much more likely that we'll see a feature get pushed to like one patch out. And if that trend continues, then they'll probably be on patch beyond like every patch in a year or two, which should be about when Squadron 42 has to release. And here's the thing. Squadron 42 has to release in the next 2 to 3 years. Not because of some concept of utter failure or, backers not supporting them anymore, but because CIG is building an office that has 1,000 capacity. They're trying to get 1,000 people to work in that Manchester office. They have like 500 people in the Manchester office, so it's an additional doubling. It's like a double of their entire staff. They can't financially support double the staff in Manchester with the current amount of money they get. Even record levels, it's impossible. But they might be able to if they sell a single player game, and it does well. So Squadron is money. Oh yeah. Well, they'll have a Citizen Con next this year. But the reality is that the people getting angry and that kind of stuff, that'll all be forgotten in a month. Some people will still remember, but the vast majority of people will move on, especially when 317 comes close. Even upon sex release, people will still bitch and whine. Me, I'm going to be space trucking across the universe. Yeah. Eventually, everyone will have their moments. But the key is, when you start to see the community stop complaining about development and start complaining about balance more, then you're seeing more of what a regular game is. And we're already getting to that point. Like, the big drama of last year was the Ion getting nerfed, which to a lot of people was this big hullabaloo. And to me was like, are we talking about balance? We're not talking about salvaging. We're talking about balance. The fuck is this community coming to? Oh, damn. Is this becoming a game? Am I high? Did my meds work okay? Is everything okay? Is this reality? Am I dreaming? What the fuck is happening? Because that was the big deal. It was a balance issue, which is like, okay. Happy birthday, Escobar. It was more than about balance. It was misleading and mishandled. I don't think it was misleading or mishandled. This is not a game, it's a way of life. I will 100% give up my life of crime to run escort for fuel rats. Your birthday's in September. Oh, okay. I think people's rage mostly is this year seems stemmed down to COVID. It pushed a lot of things back on CIG's part, but CIG did really well to keep up with they could, and then some during the lockdowns. CIG could have easily done what everyone else did and say, we're on lockdown, everyone's furlough, zero production. Holly, can CIG do no wrong? No, but every time I complain about something that CIG does, you forget that I mentioned it. Knowledge. CIG still has this bad problem of cutting late instead of cutting when they know something's going to get delayed. They're shitty at communication. We also need another discussion about how pooping will affect gameplay, because I think it's not been discussed fully. I'm going to have a shit summit in a captain's table. It's going to be called what's the scientific term for it? Not refuse, that's just trash. Defecation. A defecation discussion. Do I think Space Development will be canceled since ground vehicles set records for sales? Yes, Tombs. I think that's what's going to happen. Though I think you can use the hover quad in space, can't you? Excrement, thank you. A fecal filibuster, a fecal summit, I guess. We'll have a fecal summit on a captain's table, and it'll probably be on April 1st or around April 1st, and it will be with Darge and HC Vertigo, and the entire discussion is how hygiene is going to fundamentally change Star Citizen's development. A poo panel, if you will. Yes. I'm not even joking. It's going to happen. It's going to happen in April. It's going to be the big April Fool's discussion that no one really knows about why pooping is actually the most important game mechanic in the game. And it's incredibly important that we understand how hygiene and pooping work. That's how that's going to work. Bring a galleon of rum. Yes. Q-Pen, don't get me started. Everyone else is angry about, communications and the ion and blah, 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 blah. But I'm pissed off that we're getting coffee before we get fucking pizza. That's a fucking disgrace. We've had a pizza shop in stations and in landing zones for fucking years. Not a single fucking slice of pizza that I can eat. And at least with noodles, it makes sense. You gotta, individually animate every single digit for those chopsticks so you can eat your noodles, because Chris Roberts is a fucking madman. But with pizza, I use my fucking hands like a normal human being, like a goddamn American. Just pick up a slice and eat it. All right? The fact that pizza's not in the game is up there with the Starfarer being useless and the Reclaimer being useless. All right? That's how pissed off I am about pizza, about them stubbing pizza for that. Oh, did I say recipes? Professions. Oh, because spicy professions, yeah. Your Texas is showing off a little bit. Yeah. They had to do a custom folding animation for the pizza. Who the fuck folds their pizza? Who do I need to slap? Sorry for this, not for long. That's true. That's a give CIG that. New Yorkers do. Well, New Yorkers are insane. New Yorkers also have pizza that's the size of my head, in length and is about the consistency, the thickness of a piece of paper. That's why they fold their pizza. No, everyone sits down in the future, renovate. No one pees standing up in the future. I'm thinking of pizza pockets. Pizza pockets are just mini calzones. Change my mind. The in-game tutorial is how to use the 3 seashells. Detroit-style pizza will be served exclusively in Berea. Ouch. Ouch. Paul, I need to confer with you regarding my observation that Star Citizen universe is populated with NBs. What do you mean NBs? $1,000 Italian souls just cried with that comment, Paul. Well, they can come from my soul later. Getting some sleep. Oh, I see what you're saying. You'll be able to do 4 of the 5 S's. Shit, shower, shave, sleep. Yeah. Ryan, that's... The Star Citizen needs to have PvP game modes to play so they can get all the COD and Battlefield players into it. I'm going to say the forbidden words, chat. Everyone, please, cross yourselves... Hold some sort of holy object and throw salt behind you, for I'm going to say a valuable curse that is words that we were not supposed to speak of, because it is something every time it brings up, it brings sadness upon the world. And you know what I'm going to say. Ryan, they have something like that. It's called Theaters of War. It's currently... somewhere off in the ether, in the general direction of some sort of release at some point of time, maybe before the heat death of the universe. I'm probably gonna wrap it up here shortly. Actually, long as it was last time. We did 5 hours. Just like Satapal. Yes, just like Satapal. And capture the Idris mode. Pear character bowling down saying thank you. Thank you, Pear. Thank you, Pear. Thank you, Black. Bowing down saying thank you. Whenever you say that, Sean Tracy cries a little. I know. It's one of those things where, like, it's brought up every so often in whispered tones and hushed voices, the discussion of Theaters of War. The reality is that Theaters of War still exists and is still being worked on. It's just... nowhere to be seen, and we haven't heard anything from it for fucking years. Thank you for that $10, though. Back to you, Santa Paula is just a myth used to scare children, small children. Yeah. Take more messages. I'm checking my private messages. I don't see anything. There was not a third party, yeah. It was being worked on by the studio at Sony Bot, yeah. Joker, don't even joke about that. Don't even joke about Ilphonic. Say it, Fish. Speak your truth. Endeavor. Yep, Endeavor. Cult of the Endeavor. Praise be it. All right, so let me pull this up. I'm going to show this to you, Ryan, just so you know. See if we can find it. Okay.
I'll keep you updated as we go. We'll watch each other's back and come home in one piece. New plan. I think they're controlling it from that radar tower. I need all agents to focus on that.
This is the only gameplay we ever got of this mode. And it was 3 years ago when this came out? 4 years ago? Notice there's no sound effects.
All teams. Redirecting you to take out that mining laser. Use ships or take it on foot. Whatever it takes. It's gotta go.
The fuck are you gonna take that on foot? It's in space, dude. Yeah, this is the official trailer for Theaters of War that was 3 years ago. Four years ago, not 3 years ago. 2019. There you go. There you go. Those of you who don't know that Star Citizen had a basically battlefield mode that they planned, which was planned, tested at CitizenCon, had some external testing, had absolutely horrible desync, and then we've never heard from it again. I'm not giving away a raft. Oh, I gotta change that title, don't I? It's not a raft. It's a... There you go. Fixed it. Battlefield 2042? Effectively. Same problems. I hadn't seen that. Looks fun as hell, if incredibly janky. Basically, was that voiceover Sean Tracy? I don't know. I don't think so. Effectively, from what we heard was, I've actually talked to a couple of QA members at CIG Austin who had managed to play that because we were watching it live with a couple of at VerseCon, which was like a Austin-based convention where people got together to watch CitizenCon. And I talked with a couple of CIG employees who managed to make it up there, and they were like, who were QA, and they're like, yeah, we've played it, you know, for QA purposes. And what they said was it was fun enough that we would clock out and then play some more. We really enjoyed it, and we had fun playing it. So the answer was it was fun, but everyone I know who played it in the internal testing basically said, or it like you know, NDA testing basically said the desync was atrocious. It was unplayable. It was just broken. Yeah, basically it's waiting for new netcode, which is going to be a while. That might be until after server meshing is finished. I think Steve was trying to make a joke about Star Citizen, you know, like future thing. Paul, today's IC made me realize that I finally have a career path in Star Citizen. I will be the fiercest dominatrix of all the verse. I was saying, kidnapping does not look like kidnapping. Kidnapping looks like some other profession. How you doing, Buster? You get a follow command for Buster? There are more people streaming Star Citizen than 2042. Oof. Oof. $29.52. Yeah. $29.42. Battlefield 2942. Gotta go to bed. Yeah, I'm gonna probably end up going to stuff. Kidnapping looks like making boys cry like they're cargo haulers and got hit with a 30K error. My hammer related 50K an hour. My safe word was there. Their butt kept saying there. But I kept saying there. What's your safe word? I think I'm gonna go to bed, y'all. Nothing about Buster's Choice surprises me. I love it. Thank you, Papa Hefe. I don't know if we got a follow command for Buster or not. Buster can give a follow command for herself because she's a mod. But I'm gonna get some sleep. It's almost 4 hours of streaming, which is longer than I normally do, but not my 5 hours that I did before. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us here tonight at the Astropub. If you enjoyed that, please hit the follow button if you haven't already done so. If you are watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, leave a comment, all those sorts of things. Please do so. And I'll be back tomorrow with some Star Citizen, probably some Zero to Hero if things work out properly. Maybe just some of my own stuff and just hanging out. Who knows? I might get together with some folks, but Sunday we'll probably do a bar crawl if we don't do some other activity together. Saturday may be a little iffy because we've kind of have some people who aren't going to be able to make it for next couple of weeks for the TSMR stuff. So hopefully we can pause and come back to it. But soon, and I mean very soon, we're going to have another TSMR show hosted by the one and only Buster the Destroyer. It'll be up on TSMR's YouTube, but it'll be, I hit my mic like an idiot. It'll be on her channel, streaming it from it. So from 8 to jump in a single night. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, ex Historia ad Astra. I don't have an ending screen here, so I screwed this one up. Which has to use a starting screen. Work in progress.
But low-key, I've been giving